Hello and welcome. I'm so glad you could make it. I'm glad I could make it too. It's, always a catch as catch can situation. We're going to have a wonderful show today, y'all. This is a new show that we've been developing now, actually for almost an entire year. We have wanted to do an entire series about story development and how story development can be this wonderful, fun, enlivening experience rather than the way I've heard some people talk about it. And when I say some people, I mean as young as 7 years old. Some people talk about the creative experience and it sounds laborious. It sounds a bit like punishment. And so we're hoping to kind of give you that shot in the arm, that infusion of joy. And so with me today to help me do it are a fantastic collection of author tubers. I'm so excited. So let me just go ahead and start introducing folks so you can see them too. There is the wonderful Cat is here. Hello. Yes. And with us as well, Laura Nettles. Woohoo! Yay! And then, truly a surprise, we caught a wild Maggie. Woohoo! Yay! Today on the prairie or the mountains. And then with us as well is the fantastic Nina. Yay! And you know him. I love him. My technical producer, my brother. It's Tom. Woohoo! Yay! Everybody is here. Who knows? There are even maybe more people. We never know when we catch wild folks out there on the prairies of creativity who just are able to stop by. So here we are. Here is today. Hello, everybody. I'm so glad you could join us.
Hello.
I'm honored that you could come, that you made time to be with us and to share with everyone else. As I was explaining, this is all part of my master plan. So, would anyone like to do an intro? They are truly optional. They are not required. I'm going to just let that pause there for everyone to see, like, there was consent. Laura, would you like to?
Sure.
All right. Here we go.
My name is Laura Nettles, obviously. But I have a Twitch channel. It's Laura_Nettles, and I'm getting so close to affiliate. We do writing sprints. We just did some. I do them on Saturdays, and I'm trying to figure out what other days, because apparently you have to have more than one day a week to make affiliate. Yes. So at least Saturdays. Then we'll figure out the rest from there. But I'm close to affiliate, so if you please go and follow along. We'll get stuff done, and you'll get some writing.
Yay!
And I have some vlogs out now about my middle grade horror. So if you want to go watch those, they're fun.
And there is now a link in the chat to Laura's Twitch stream. If anyone would like to make sure that they are following her, so they can get all the goodies. Would anyone else like to? Again, Maggie?
I'll go next. Hi, I'm Mama Maggie Ward. Coming to you from the Colorado Prairie on my very rural internet. I am a stroke survivor and a multi-genre writer who 2020 made me crazy. So 2021, I decided to tell it to hold my coffee. And I have published 9 of my 10 self-publishing goals for 2021. I also have a video on my writing style that I learned all the way back in like 1992 age. And it's called Writing the Tree. And it was from a college course that I took that was a 3-week write a novelette course. So I hope you'll check out that video, find it interesting. And I'm here to talk about writing.
There is Maggie's Writing the Tree link for anyone, as well as her YouTube link, just in case you aren't already subscribed. Just throwing that out there. Maggie is wonderful. I love your Hold My Coffee series.
Yeah, that was me losing my mind after 2020 and everything. I took Caro Brown's advice to have an acorn year. I think a little too serious. I didn't just plant a tree. I tried to plant a forest.
Right? I just found it very relatable, the whole Hold My Coffee series. So, yes, excellent stuff. Would anyone else like to do an intro? They are non-obligated. Oh, Nia? All right. Nia's up.
All right. Hi, guys. I am Nia, the Vixen of Fiction here on YouTube. I'm also the Vixen of Fiction on Twitch and on Instagram. You can follow me there. I am a mom of 4 and a pug mom to the fabulous Loki. I am a writer of historical fiction, science fiction, fantasy, and sometimes I mix a little bit of romance and paranormal into all of that. I'm currently working on a comic and a novella, and if starting in October, if you join my Ko-fi, then you will get a copy of my comic series. Yeah, things are happening. It's been a long month. I have been kind of incognito, but I've been like chatting with my mom and with my family, and they've had all of these ideas, and they're like, whoa, slow down. So I got some really great ideas on, because I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with this. So I got some really great ideas, and so I'm very excited about where things are going in October, which will be my 1 year on AuthorTube.
Yay! Fantastic.
That is
All
awesome.
right. All right, there's only one more. Kat, you can opt out. It's okay.
Right,
can
it's a
do
strike
one.
cardboard.
You
I'm
can't.
sorry.
All right, speaking of labor. I'm just teasing. I love you.
I'm Kat. I do the things on the interwebs. I'm trying to have a video out once a week this month on my YouTube channel, considering how often I neglect it, because YouTube and I have beef. That beef results in me having Twitch as my streaming service, where I actually have my schedule for this week and next week already set up on there for productivity streams. I actually was like, I get my schedule 2 weeks out, essentially. I can start doing like stream day off where I'm probably still going to be on a stream, but not my own situations. I do the writing things. Yeah. Oh, I plan
Cat,
on
not
doing. Yes, cat, a kitten. Last year in October, I did a tarot prompt list for writing, and I want to do that again. So I'm probably going to try and do like a vote thing on probably my Instagram for which tarot deck I should use. Last year I used my Crow tarot deck, but I have so many tarot decks because I have a problem.
I vote Marigold.
Abel?
I don't own that one.
Oh, I want to see you do the Marigold deck.
It's so pretty and I want it, but I'm going to
wanted to
resist.
vote?
I will resist. It's so pretty. Y'all, I want it so much. But I have so many decks, one of which is the Golden Girls deck that I have. So
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing the Golden Girls deck, honestly. But the Marigold one is gorgeous. Like
it is. It's totally on my wish list. Or will
We
be.
need to set up. We need to set up a GoFundMe to buy that deck for
yeah,
Kat.
you know what? Coffee would be a great way to like.
I have a coffee, by the way.
fundraiser.
Where
Throwing
you
that out
can
there.
just do one-time donations, or that's
Yeah.
also where you can buy my planners that I make.
It's how I
you buy it.
You could too.
You download and print the planner yourself, though, or I don't have the ability. I'm not savvy enough to make it where you can just edit things on a computer, y'all. One day maybe, but not today. But I also have like the membership thing over there where you're supposed to get access to stuff early. I'm trying, y'all.
Yeah.
I have
You know
no
what?
people
It's
out
fine.
there
It's
yet.
okay.
It's fine that I'm behind.
It's okay.
Everything is fine.
We
Oh,
believe
there's,
in you.
there's one more thing I forgot to mention that I wanted to mention. So I do an AuthorTubers React. We're going to do that later this month. We'll have one. Glory was on the last one. It was really, really great. So this month it's going to be AuthorTubers React to Unpopular Opinions Part 2. Next month we're going to be doing AuthorTubers React to Publishing Nightmares. So we'll do those once a month, and you can join me on Saturday nights. And I do live stream most Wednesdays and Saturdays. So
Very cool. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So Here, ha ha, puppy break.
Oh,
Hello, cutie. Ah, yes.
Oh,
Show
oh,
us your animals.
okay.
Oh, look at
It's
the
puppy
furry
time.
baby.
Hello.
Oh,
Say hi.
Someday they're
wish
gonna
I was
grow
at my
up.
mommy's.
no.
I wish I was at
think
my
this is
mom's
as
and I
big
had the
as Roy's gonna
girls.
get.
I know. One day, honey. One day.
Oh, yeah.
All the
I
good
miss
furry.
them. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. I have a meme to send Kat. Whenever I find guinea pig memes, it's like
My lips.
okay, before we go much further, let's go ahead and say hi in the chat. Chandra is here. Hello, darling. Hello. And the lovely Spence. Hello, sweetie. And Laura's here doing double duty because she knows I love to say it. And Tom is here in chat doing double duty. And Megan, like I just saw you, darling. Wonderful. And Diane is here. Hello, sweetie. All right. And Eva is here. You look so familiar. Yes. Oh, the goodness. Let me see. Just scrolling to make sure I've got it. Oh, there is Heather. Hello, darling. Hope you
Heather
are
just had a birthday. Happy
Happy birthday!
Happy late birthday.
And also because y'all know I have ADHD, I'm going to go ahead and wish everyone a Shana Tova. Hello, it's good that Rosh Hashanah starts tonight, so go ahead and celebrate. I hope everyone has a sweet new year. We'll just keep trying till we get it right?
Yeah, sure.
All right, Loki literally just fell asleep.
It's December 278th. Can we please start 2021 now?
It feels like it too. So anyway, wishing everyone a sweet new year. It's going to be great. We're just going to keep plugging along. You know what? Till we get it right. Okay. It's going to be lovely. So here we are. Now we've gotten, I think, all the regular business out of the way. And here we are today's show. It's about...
I'm gonna get something to distract him.
Really?
I love it, though. I got to be
about
honest. It's okay, sweetie. I mean,
Tell
a
us
little
more.
barking. That's how you know they have opinions. It's wonderful.
Loki just fell asleep. I'm going to try and put him down. And
Yeah.
like he fell asleep that quick.
Mommy's arms are the best to sleep in. Let's be honest. We know how it goes. Oh, is that the whole crowd?
Yes. They were all napping.
Yes.
They all lifted their heads when they heard Roy bark,
Right.
and then they just laid back down.
Yeah, they're like, oh, that wasn't a real problem. It's fine. It's fine.
That was just on her channel.
Right. It's no big deal.
That was
So-
on that silver thing she looks at all the time instead of
Right. I
making
don't
it
know
to
what
us.
she finds this fascinating. There's no food that ever comes out of it. I know I've checked. But yeah, so here we are, the start of the show and the start of a new show series about story development. And what are the two, and like maybe I'm biased in naming the show, but I named it More Readers, More Money. Of course, the unspoken third part of that is more problems. But anyway, that's what the whole show's about, right? Of like addressing the problems. And so I thought, let's talk about story development because it is honestly probably my top favorite part of the creative process. And yet so many people I hear talk about it like it's a burden. And that boggles my mind of like, wait, the part that I love, you hate? Go on. What?
Tell me more.
If you did it the way I do it, maybe you would be less miserable, right? Maybe, hopefully, maybe. So here we are. Does anybody have any starting salvos they would like to hurl? And you can if you have unpopular opinions, or you just want to look, I just got to get this off my chest now because you know that this is an ADHD type stream. So whatever you'd like, go ahead and just jump in. Yes.
You do not need character development for a flash fiction piece. So
Agreed.
if you want to skip that and just go for the micro or the flash, you can just cut straight to the
This is a
climax.
great way to avoid character development. I don't have to develop any characters. if
I
can
don't know who that character is. It's just somebody
Briefly.
stuck in space.
Right? You don't have to know anything about them.
And
when we're
but
talking.
does he have a brother?
What's the birthday? What color are your eyes?
Was he born in Alaska? Did he grow up looking at the Northern Lights?
Who cares?
How was his relationship with his parents?
Oh,
We
good.
just need to know.
Nobody got time for that.
That explains so much.
What was the name of the girl he kissed in second grade?
Ah, it was Sally. Sally
Oh.
Hansen.
They're all just no. Don't ruin this.
No?
Right? No.
Are you sure, Laura?
Like it's 100 words. It's okay. It's 1,000 words. We don't need to know.
I can't even describe coffee in 100 words. I don't know how Laura writes the flash fictions to be so good. I'm reading. She sent me a link, and I'm reading through them. I'm in love with the soup one. I know that sounds horrible. It sounds horrible. And when you read it, you will understand. But I was like, oh, I have a character who does that.
Yeah.
Her situation's a little different. She's trying to keep a colony of people alive, and either you work or you're food.
Not just. I don't like
So
it.
millennial. It's so
Well,
millennial.
you know what they say. It's like she's like, well, looks like we're having pulled pork sandwiches again, and the guy's like, but you didn't kill a pig. And she goes, where, what? She's like, you don't see me with any pigs here.
Oh
Yeah.
Lord.
So,
Oh,
that's one thing that I've loved about.
there's a
doing
dark
character.
turn right there.
Yes. So you're supposed to write things through the character lens. So like how the character is seeing things. So one thing that's kind of like a cheat that I've done is just do it through a human lens. How would a typical human feel when their space helmet cracks in space? And just the experience of the sounds of the gases hissing out and the irises crystallizing in fractals and stuff like that. So like just describing it and leave some of the inner thoughts up to the reader so that they can like, this is what I would be thinking as they are reading through the experience. So that's a cheat that you can do.
Yeah, leave it to them. They'll fill it in.
But I think that only really works for really short pieces because you don't want a Bella Swan where they have nothing in their cardboard for an entire piece.
Right.
That's a long fiction. So for short pieces, let the reader insert themselves.
Sure. Nikki has joined us. Hello, dear. So glad you did not miss us. We just got started. And we even had a showing of the fur babies, which you know I do love. Okay. Opening salvos. Anybody else? Yes, Mackie.
Nothing is insignificant. If it's just a few lines of dialogue between two people in your head, characters you don't know, go ahead and jot it down. Because you'll be like, I had the perfect line for this. I had the perfect moment. And I and so I have memory issues from my stroke. So I write everything down. But, if you delete a scene or something from a book, keep a folder that's just orphans. Just keep an orphan folder, and doing that, if you become blocked, if you're blocked on a story or something, go and pick through your orphan folder. The seed to get you over the block could be in that folder, and it might not be something you realize until you read it again, and then you're like, So, they joke about writers, keep something to scribble on with you, record it on your phone or something. Do this. It's invaluable. And you never know when the seed to your next novel or your next short story or your next flash fiction is going to come to you. So just, don't be ashamed to go in the middle of a restaurant or something.
Yes.
And never say, I'll remember this and write it down later.
That is the siren of failure right there.
No. The line in our family, the joke line is, I just need to go get it. Go get something in the other room.
Yes,
Oh,
and
When you
no!
pass through the
There's a
door,
doorway
you will
problem.
forget.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
doorway's the dimension to the next universe. The memories don't go with you.
Right.
I
Actually,
had this happen.
proven
I was drawing out scenes for one of my comics, and as I'm drawing out the scene, I was having the dialogue between the characters in my head. I totally thought I wrote it all down. So when I went to go back like 2 weeks later to do the speech bubbles and the thought bubbles, I'm looking through my file. I'm like, where is that dialogue? I never wrote it down. I was doing it in my head as I was drawing out the scenes. I was really mad at myself.
Yeah.
But I was able to fill it in. But still, don't.
Yeah,
don't
it's
do
not
that.
quite the same, is it? It's like
It's not, I'm like, I feel like I'm missing something, and you'll always feel like you were missing something. But then my husband's like, tell yourself that it's better now than it was
right,
then.
just so
I'm
you
like,
could
okay.
sleep at night. I just
Yes.
want to point out most people, I'm not saying everyone, like I am not necessarily the person who takes her phone everywhere with her, but most people do take their phone literally from room to room. It is okay to just record it real quick. Like, it does take discipline though. Look, I'm not going to say it doesn't. It's taken me like what, Tom, about 15, 20 years to train myself to like in the moment, write it down or record it. Don't like, oh, I'll remember.
And
Just go
every
ahead.
phone has either a notes thing, or there's a voice record, or just record a video clip real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, logs have been really helpful for me to record things, and I watch them back. I'm like, oh yeah, I have that idea. I should probably do
Right.
it. Or I was gonna write for that anthology. It's due in 2 days. I gotta write it tonight. So just having that as a video.
What was it, Tom? Do you remember which country music songwriter it was that I had read an interview of back in the late 90s? It was the one who she wrote and sang Strawberry Wine. I can't remember what. Is it Leanne Carter or
Deanna.
Deanne Carter, I think.
Deanne Carter, I think.
She wrote in she said in an interview, they were like, how do you come up with these song types? And she's like, I have literally notebooks in every room and in every place I sit. I even have a waterproof notebook with waterproof pencils and pens in my shower. And whenever the idea comes, I go ahead, even in the shower, and I write it down. And I didn't even know waterproof paper and pencils existed at that point.
I have written on the wall of a shower with a soap crayon.
Nice. I've done that too. And then it like starts like bleeding because it was a red crayon. If I'm brutally honest, it was a red soap crayon. And my then husband came home and was like, "What happened?" And I'm like, "Did you even read it?" You know, and he's like, "No, I was distracted by the fact it looked like something out of Friday the 13th." And I was like, "But it's soap. It dyed the wall, the backsplat." Anyway, but you know what? I was not crying. It was a very old house, and it was like avocado green backsplat. I don't care. But
the red showed up real well though.
Oh, it looked fantastic. Like I actually kind of went over and started making them look like flowers, and then it just looked like faded, like hand-drawn flower graffiti. No one else ever suspected afterwards. But she had said that in an interview, and honestly, I was talking to Tom a couple weeks ago about it, and that was a game changer in my creative works. Was when I respected the creative muse. When it comes, you stop and you write it down.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like that was when I think I was somewhere between 17 and 19 when I read that interview. Back when country music television had a magazine. And so
it still does.
Oh, good Lord. Anyway, I mean, I thought it was a gimmick at the time. But anyhow, it was free. And I read it in like a dentist's office or something. And it was like to the point I would literally pull over the car and jot down the thoughts. Or like as soon as I could pull over, I would jot down the thoughts and just go on about my day. And it really changed. I mean, that's where a lot of the poems in here came from. So I think it's wonderful advice, Maggie. You're absolutely right. It was a game changer for me. I imagine it would be a game changer for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Nikki says, I'm obsessed with my notes. When I remember to take them down, I have backups of my backups. Same, honey. That's a mood right there. boy, do we writers go, yeah, the cloud, but also the cloud's cloud.
Mm-hmm.
And
then emailing it to yourself,
paper
and
notes,
making sure it's on your phone, and then writing it down in your journal and your notebook. Yep, all of the
I
things.
lost 3 months of work because my laptop literally went and like cloud of smoke came out of it. And the terabyte drive I was backing everything up on had a bad sector. And all my documents saved as X's. Every character was an X.
No.
And so and I had, it was winter, so I was having issues with my hands writing. So I had not written anything down in like 2 months. But I had a backup and I thought I was safe, but my backup was messed up.
Yeah,
so save in 3 places.
Look, I realize like people don't have printers anymore, but can I just be that advocate to say, you know, it doesn't hurt once in a while to print your stuff out.
Do that.
Spend the money. I mean, if you can. I know not everybody has the privilege to be able to afford a printer, no matter how crappy the printer is. Printer costs money.
I bought 2 printers and they both break within the first week.
Yeah,
I know somebody
talk about that, Laura. Like, we're gonna have to like do further investigation.
I've given up and I just go to Staples.
Yeah,
I know someone that because the ink is so expensive, it's actually cheaper for them to buy a new printer.
Yep.
So she will literally just buy a new printer.
I have been we have in the past bought printers that like I could just easily refill myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I got real good with the syringe way before I had ever needed for diabetes. You know, like I got real good at just topping it off without overfilling, because it won't print right if you overfill them. And but like there is a certain freedom to hand filling your own cartridges. If you have to imagine as a cottage core fun. But yeah, like look, there are times where perhaps even printing monthly, just whatever you've creatively made in a month, maybe it's something to think about. Of like, at what point will you not mourn it? Would it be like a day's worth of work you've missed, or lost to time, or would it be a week's worth of creative work? At what point will the mourning start, and print before that?
Yeah. One of the things that I've done with all of
Yep.
Nice. Yes.
$3 for the whole thing as a book.
Mm-hmm.
Here you are. You both got. You're like.
I loaded mine through Amazon.
Yep.
$4.25 for the author copy, review copy, before I ever published it.
And even if you want to go traditional, you never have to hit live on that thing.
You don't.
You just
you
upload it.
You can just
preview it, order a copy, and never go live.
And it will say this across, a little banner across whatever image you put on it, and then you can scribble in it all you want.
Right. Good
Get
point.
you a chance to see how it looks. Actually, have the reader experience. But if you're just working on it and you're not quite there yet, seriously, guys, you can email yourself. If you've got 2 email addresses, just email yourself, especially if you have one Google and one Yahoo or something else. That way, if there's ever a problem with your Google account, you can, don't worry, you've got it, you've emailed it to your Yahoo or whatever other email service you're using. Everyone can do that for completely free. Just email chapter by chapter or every so many chapters, and you've got it.
Yeah, we've done so many copies of hard drives. Like we've got copies and copies, but at a certain point, it is worth it for, again, at what point will I mourn the loss?
Yep.
So it's something like we've researched of, okay, let's see what deals we could get on hard drives. So we just have multiple hard drives. The likelihood of all the hard drives being destroyed is, the more you have, the less likely every one of them will be irrevocably destroyed. Although I say that, and I live in hurricane country. So,
yeah,
which again, I use multiple backups. So both physical hard drives and jump drives, as well as the cloud, various internet resources for backing up, and emails I use as well.
I live at
And prints.
6,000 feet, and when there are solar storms and magnetic storms, everyone has electronic issues.
Yep.
The higher up you go, the less atmosphere you have to protect your electronics. I keep mine in a Faraday box.
I was about to say,
Ah.
Tom keeps threatening to put my hard drives in a Faraday cage because, you know what, that's not worth getting into. Just know that sometimes when I'm upset, electronics go haywire. It's just how it is. So, yeah.
You are not a muggle.
We don't have to go into that, but yeah, that's been documented.
Here's a really cheap way if you can't afford a terabyte drive.
Mm-hmm.
This is a chip for my camera.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You can put your documents on these chips. This one was $14. It's 64 gigabytes.
I have an entire box of
Actually
them.
my laptop has a drive for it.
I have
Because
a
I
box
just
of
pulled it
this.
out of my laptop. And it is actually an adapted drive. So it can actually hold mini and micro SDs.
This is my external hard drive. It has all of the shots of films that I've worked on for my demo reel and stuff that I've written. So Black Friday, the 8 terabytes was only like $50 more than the 1 terabyte.
Yep.
Dang.
Nice.
Black Friday is awesome for electronics.
Black Friday is awesome.
And we shop the deals.
Yeah, and this is something that I do. I do this probably once every 6 months to once a year, where I just put everything on the terabyte and then either on thumb drives or memory cards, which my son told me that sometimes the memory cards do get corrupted. So you do want to make sure that you have, you know, not just the memory card, but also the thumb drive and I have the, you got to have all of the things.
My thumb drive was so
I will
old, my
say,
computer wouldn't
when
recognize it.
my computer crashed in July, the beginning of July, and I did not, it's the first time I had a computer crash where I did not go into panic mode, because the only thing I lost was what I had just done in the last week and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And even some of that was already on the cloud.
Mm-hmm.
So just a couple of videos, and mostly what I lost was that I had already edited videos that I would have to now re-put back on the computer to re-edit. I really was just not that stressed. I'm like, this is what it's like to know that everything is on my 2 terabyte separate hard drive, that everything's backed up on my memory cards and on my thumb drives, and that I've got everything on the cloud, and and I've emailed myself all of my work. So literally it's just what I had done in the last week and a half that I had lost.
Nice. Yeah.
And what didn't go up to the cloud, because then I looked and some of it was on the cloud, and I was like, yes, really just the editing the videos. That's all that I lost.
And a nice thing is, like, if you're like in later stages of a draft, there was an interaction on the book that I was literally just editing with my editor for Editingle Indie House last week, and I'm like, there are things missing. There's this whole subplot storyline missing. I had to go all the way back to my 2018 copy to find, and it was like 11 sentences that occur through the book that I had pulled out when I was querying the book, because I'd had agents and editors say, well, nobody really wants to read about somebody calling and waiting for their therapist to call back. But then I realized this was a very important point for this character, the fact that you don't just see her going to therapy once. You see her calling her therapist, talking to therapist over and over and over. And it's just one little line here and one little line there, all the way through a 74,000 word novel.
Mm-hmm.
But it changes the perception of the character. And I had not realized that I had left that out until one of the people reading it and bless her heart, I love her to death. She read the original way back on Wattpad and Inkwit years ago, and she was like, wasn't there this thing? And so I looked, and then I went back and looked, and then I ended up going all the way back to the 2018. So if you know, if you're like, the people will tell you, oh, just save over.
Mm-mm.
Never save over. Keep every version of that book you ever write, even if there's like 30 of them.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just
Make sure to put a note of version.
Yeah,
What I
this
do
is true.
like-
I had to choose the
versions.
name of my story. My other Vella, the one that I'm publishing under another name, I have 2 versions of it, and so sometimes I'll click on the wrong one. I'm like, wait a minute, that does, and there's a specific reason why I'm like, that doesn't sound right, and I'm like, oh, I'm in the wrong one. But yeah, I did not just copy over. I actually made another copy to actually edit to fit for Vella.
Like with print, which I have a different method with my photography. But with my, you know, when I say print, I mean, I'm talking about like on the laptop, but words instead of pictures. When I'm editing words, I used to use the title of the document, you know, under whenever with the save as title of the document, and then V5, V30, whatever, you know, for versions. When I went back to college to finish my degree, because I was doing so many of these, I found it confusing. And from there, I changed it to, I would just at the end of the title, say the document, whatever it is, I would literally put the date, that day's date, you know, but it was like, so today's date would be 09/06/2021. And it was all one. There's no lines or anything. It's just like a solid string of numbers. It looks like nothing to anyone else. However, the computer will organize it correctly. You know, whether I tell it oldest first or newest first, it will organize it correctly. So it's always easy for me to see what is the most recent version of that. And that's how I handle filing documents, where again, yeah, every time I'm doing an edit, it's save as, because I'm starting essentially a new round of edit. And that's how I entitle the document. And then from there, when I'm done, you know, I would like email it to myself or email it to Tom, but I always save a copy of my emails in a folder in my email because it's got the file attached. Because I have changed my settings in my email so that it always saves a copy of what I'm emailing to anyone else or even to myself or whatever. And that's how I would also organize those files, because there is essentially a need as creatives that we also think about our filing system so it's easy to find quickly of what we're working on in especially the editing and revision process. Since I could take days, months, years, perhaps a decade or two, in my case, a few times. So, did anyone else have any opening salvos? Any other things they just got to get off their chest before we go further? Just checking.
There's no wrong way to create.
That.
What'd you say, Laura?
Subscribe.
Oh,
Subscribe to Glory.
oh girl. Anyway, we're happy you're all here. Lurk mode is welcome too as well. And we're happy to keep you company while you work on whatever the next day. We've noticed that we do have a fair amount of people who watch after we're no longer live. So we're happy to keep y'all company. Maybe we'll help jiggle some ideas loose in your head to use. Okay. So the basic premise of today's episode, we're building we're trying to scaffold. We're making a scaffolding to make the story development process fun and exciting and rewarding and, dare I say, energy regenerating. Because the thing that, like, the last thing I want to hear anyone say, well, not because I don't want to hear it, but because I don't want it to be true, I don't want the people to experience, is where they're like, oh, I feel so exhausted whenever I get in creative mode, rather than afterwards feeling like you could go run a million blocks. Yes, hello, future lurkers. You are welcome. We love our lurkers. But So that's what we wanted to address. So we thought, well, what is the first level of tools to put in your toolbox and your tool shed to build your scaffolding for yourself? And that is this idea of what, is called workshopping in a general sense. It's called workshopping when essentially you don't have a finished product. You're somewhere between the very start of conceiving a new idea and the final product. And so especially when you start interacting with other human beings in any form about your idea, that is often in creative circles called workshopping, or like you're trying to hone it, if you will. Yeah, I love the post-creativity exhaustion. Like, y'all, I never sleep so well as right after I have done creative stuff where it's like, oh, I sleep like a baby. Like I sleep the sleep of the innocent. But that's like a different kind of, rather than, oh, I hate doing creative stuff because I feel so drained afterwards. Like, oh, no, let us talk about how not to drain your soul. Okay.
That's what editing is for.
Also remembering that in part of being creative, you have to refill your creativity.
Yes.
Mhm.
You can't just put out stuff. You have
because
to
we're not machines.
take things in as well.
It's a cycle. It's a loop. Hello to Mama. So with workshopping, what it really comes down to, and I'm not saying this is a definitive answer. Please don't think that any of this is definitive. We are just people, and these are our opinions and our experiences. And how you work may be different, but we're throwing this out there in case it jogs something for you. And also, I found some people, they love to hear other people's ideas to figure out yes or no. Like, does this ring true for me? Or no, this doesn't ring true. This does instead. That's still a part of inspiring, right? So that's where we're going at. So whenever you're telling your story to other people, whether you realize it or not, more likely you're workshopping. Because you're hearing their feedback about the part of the story you're telling. We're looking at micro expressions. We're listening for the verbal cues of, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's neat. Or, okay, why? We're gauging people's reactions to give us an idea of what our potential future readers or listeners or however our audience will experience our story. All of that is the workshop process. All of it is. And so, what we wanted to talk about, and again, this is not definitive, and this is not the only thing we're going to talk about, because, yeah, this is the zeitgeist of having essentially a live podcast, is role-playing characters can be a lot of fun, and also it can help us flesh out characters as well as world building. And improving any part. You can improv a scene, you can improv a character, you can just improv world building with people, and then get their reaction as they are improving. And again, I want to remind everyone, the real basic idea of improving is yes and. Sometimes that creative collaboration, that can be very helpful. And then beyond that, I will shut up now.
I think also answering the question of how this happens in a story. I think that's also a fun little thing to play out is, oh, wait, how did they get there? What did they do?
Mm-hmm.
And just seeing, what sounds fun, what do you wish would have happened? What do you think might have actually happened? It's never a definitive direction or path for the story. The whole point of workshopping is, here's the possibilities. What rings?
What if?
Yeah.
What if ...
Yep.
Or why would this character want this? What would be in their background or their history that would make them say this thing?
We had that a bunch when we were working on, I've lost track.
Which one?
Why would you be sleeping in a movie theater?
Oh, yes. What is his name? I think right now we're calling him Tyler. Tyler's Town. Yeah. Why would Tyler be sleeping in the attic of a movie theater? That was how we figured out Tyler's backstory, as well as his motivation for what if he has a job, why is he sleeping in the attic of a movie theater? Why isn't he spending money to have roommates and He knows other working people like him, so why would he be sleeping there instead of renting an apartment? And workshopping that, like we literally would just improv it. We would talk about, well, what do you think about him? Why would he do this? What kind of person at approximately about 20, 19, 20 years old?
Yeah.
Why would you sleep in an attic where you work, where if you're found, you could lose your job? What is worth this risk? And we would literally just talk as if we were talking about a real person. Like, honestly, how people gossip? Only we gossip about characters. I feel it's a healthy form of gossip.
We workshopped on Laura's plant lady fiction.
Yeah.
She was live streaming and everyone was like, well, what if this and what if that? And what if she could hear the grass screaming when the little boy was mowing
Yeah.
it? And if she had worms in her shoes and that was so much fun going on, and just all the ideas and the creativity coming out. It was on Laura's Twitch channel. Was it? Yeah. It was on her Twitch channel.
Oh, it's both.
And so it's like, oh, I don't want to talk to somebody about my story idea. It's not a good idea. No one will like it. No. And no matter how crazy someone's idea is, don't reject it.
Yeah.
Don't reject, because it might not work for this story, but it might work for another story.
Yes.
And it's, I don't want to give too much away about Laura's story, but it's going to be awesome.
It is going to be awesome.
But you bring up that the class thing about how improv works. First rule: yes, and
you never say no.
How can you not say no?
Mm-hmm. Like, saying no is forbidden in almost every improv exercise. So somebody could say something outlandish of, oh, I just flew in, and let me tell you, that octopus ride was exhausting. And you, as the other person, cannot go, that's not real, you sound nuts. You have to go, oh, wow, well, they got 8 legs, so I imagine, you just have to roll with it. And then you say, so anyway, about the report you've written, you yes, and you never can say no. And that's the creative improv process. So because no's kind of are dream killers when the ideas are in their basic stance.
That's that self-critiquing, self-editing.
Yeah. When stories are still like little baby stories, the no kills them.
Can I tell you how my story came about?
Yeah, go ahead.
So my middle grade, I had been watching a YouTube channel video about horror presses that were looking for stories. Well, it was just about horror stories. So at the end, they had a list of different presses. And so I was looking them up one by one, and one of them was looking for a middle grade story. Roy. Just headbutting.
Roy will be getting featured in some stories very soon.
So they were looking for a 1,500 or less story that was supposed to be very dark and featuring a creature. So I was going through and listing creatures that I hadn't seen done too much before and that I thought I could work with. And then on Kate Kavanaugh's Twitch stream, she did a poll, and I listed the different creatures that she put in the poll for me. And carnivorous plant won. And I was like, yes, because carnivorous plants are what terrified me as a child from that stupid Goosebumps movie that they showed in elementary school during class. My mom banned all Goosebumps from the house after that. So I was like, okay, carnivorous plant. Okay. And then in the Goosebumps story, it was a plant disguised as the parents, and the kids didn't realize that their parents were like replaced by plants, and they had to figure out who was the real parents. And so I was like, okay, it's the plant disguised as a human. But then I had to branch off from there and do my own thing. So just having that seed of what scares you? What can you work with? Maybe workshopping on choosing which one to go with. Now it's going to be a series, so I'm going to go with the other ones eventually in the series. But yeah, just workshopping that way so you can see what you really want to do, and then writing it down, talking to people, and trying to work out exactly like, is it someone disguised as a plant, or are they using plants as weapons? And just like workshopping that way, which one do you want to work with? And so I talked to my sister, one of my sisters, I'll talk about them, but I talked to one of them specifically for workshopping my horror, because she's really good at thinking of a twist to make it darker. So that's really, really fun. So I workshop a lot of my short stories and flashes with her. So workshopping with people is great. And polls on Twitch can be great. I keep getting ties and whatever. So like it's great.
I think the other part though to bring up is that it's play.
Yeah.
At no point in workshopping should you be trying to punish yourself or, no, you have to stay after class doing this. It's always you should be having fun with it, because the whole goal is to eventually create something that everyone will have fun with. And the first step is make sure you're having fun.
I love stories where you can tell the author was having fun.
Yeah, it's one of the things I tell people, because when you do live streams, as most of you guys do, you hear people say, oh, I can't do this, I can't world build, or I hate plotting and stuff like that. And I understand that it's hard for some people. And when I always say, oh, it's my favorite thing whenever someone says I've got a plot or I've got an outline, because I really have so much fun doing it. It honestly is my favorite part of the writing process, is the coming up with the whole concept, building the world, because I like big stories. So building the world, coming up with the characters, and seeing how the characters will react in the story, in the situations, coming from wherever they come from. It's fun. It's almost like a game, or like playing with the characters. So if you can see it like that, and not as a chore of, oh, I've got to do this thing, I have to come up with a background for this place or for my character, try to change your outlook on how you're seeing it. It might help you get through it if you're not a plotter or an outliner, or what do they call it? Landscaping and garden. There's so many words for it.
Architect and gardener.
Architect and gardener. You know what you are. So if you're struggling in that area, try to have fun with it and not see it as this thing that you have to do, like we do with editing sometimes. I'm learning to embrace editing.
And don't be afraid to pull from real life. So part of why I write urban fantasy is because I can truly pull from real life. I can be like, this town, and it be a real town. I've been there. I can Google map it. I can and then with Google Maps you can walk towns and see where the streets are and where houses are. And
I love doing that.
Except it's not naming the rivers I need right now in Bath, Ontario.
And you never have to be what was it, Lovecraft, talking about New York. And anyone who's ever been just anywhere close to New York's like,
no.
What?
Lovecraft's description of New York makes no sense to any human being that ever existed.
He was in the alternate universe, New York. That's the only explanation. He was in the alternate universe.
It's there's nothing New York about Lovecraft, New York. Hello, Charlie. Charlie says, I see more people watching than I see live. Oh.
Did you know that the thumbs up gets lonely if you don't click it, guys?
Yeah.
Oh,
gosh. The guilt coming.
That seems to have worked. We just jumped 4 likes.
Well, I also just realized I hadn't liked the stream yet. I was like, wait a minute, I thought I already did that.
I have to go back and like it later because my internet won't let me be on YouTube and StreamYard at the same time.
I admire that your internet's letting you just be on StreamYard.
like,
I'm happy
yeah.
for it. I will take it.
I have been genuinely delightfully surprised. So yes,
There's no win today.
no, I mean I've seriously thought about like, will I need to make a blood sacrifice to keep Maggie here? All right, I got a lancet.
I got a chicken that quit laying. We can. To be fair,
The wind wanted blood,
she's
like
a
human blood.
6-year-old chicken now. She's 6, so she's
Oh,
Oh, she's getting up there. She might need to actually become dinner.
yeah. What is that? Like 112 in chicken years?
something like that.
She's ancient.
Yeah. Through though his descriptions of Miskatonic University will help you find your way around Brown. Yes, I have heard a couple people mention anyway. Yeah. Oh, and Kat's using Have Mercy for the ending for some time. Very nice. Excellent. Good stuff. Good stuff.
So I have a question.
Yes.
What do you guys think of having? So there's like the trifecta. You need to have character, plot, and setting for
Sure.
your story. If you only have 2, can you start writing and develop the third?
Yeah.
As
Yes.
you go.
Yeah, you
I
just have
think
to
you
make sure the 2 you have are interesting,
Mhm.
Yeah.
because they are going to be carrying more of the weight. So, but if you're enjoying them, yeah, go ahead. Often you'll find the third kind of shows up with it.
Yeah. Like if you have a plot and your location will develop your character in a way. And or if you have characters and plot, it will develop your location. The
Yeah.
one thing you mainly you need an inkling of is the plot.
Yeah.
Like even a pantser or a
Gardner.
discovery writer, they have somewhere in their brain, they do have the story planned in some way, shape, or form. I say this as a person who was a discovery writer for so long, and I'm still kind of one, but also I'm like, plotting, yes, I like organization. Give me more.
Yeah.
Yes, don't be you're just avoid the underwear gnome situation.
I mean, you can in the middle of discovery writing figure out a plot.
Yeah.
And I have done that. And I am like a major plotter, but Sadie and Clem is not plotted. Hence my frustration with they need to get out of that damn apartment.
Are you sure you're not just writing a story that's only in this apartment? Who says they have to leave the apartment?
I
I
said,
mean,
not
some of us
major
just-
story in the
I think
apartment.
it's just a problem of being in this apartment we find ourselves in, because my characters are doing the same thing.
It's yeah.
It's just, but do you want to tell Laura real quick what are the underwear gnomes?
Laura
Yes,
does not know
please.
what the underwear numbers are?
No.
You do not see that face?
I don't know
Oh,
what they
okay.
are either.
So it's I don't know if it originally was from South Park, but that's where I originally saw it, was on South Park 1.5 million years ago. I don't remember it's like, what has it been, 20 years since the Underwear
Yeah.
Gnome episode? I mean,
Mhm.
God, it's an institution now. Anyway, the basic idea is one of the boys, their underwear keeps disappearing. And they are like, I don't know, where's my underwear going? And it was probably Cartman. He always comes up with the craziest idea. And he's like, it's the underwear gnomes that took it. Or somebody says the underwear gnomes took it. And they're like, what are underwear gnomes? And they're like, they come in the night and they take your underwear. And, all the other boys are like, that is BS. That's not a thing. It's like, it is a thing. Anyway, they eventually track down an underwear gnome, follow them back to their lair in a cave. And the underwear gnomes explain that, yes, they have been stealing like Kyle's underwear. And they have a presentation. And they explain, step 1, steal underwear. Step 2, there's a question mark. Step 3, profit. And they're like, what is step 2? They're like, we don't know. Somebody knows though, Shirley. And they're like, well, how much profit have you made? And they're like, none yet. But I'm like, well, why do you keep stealing underwear? It's like, because we want profit. And that is the point of underwear gnomes. And it's essentially like, why do you do this thing? I don't know. One day it'll pay off. And that's essentially pantsing, or, zero drafts discovery writing is one day it'll pay off. I don't know.
Okay.
Right? I mean, that's underwear style of profit making. I think there is a follow-up episode where somehow they found profit, but it's not through underwear. That's why they stopped stealing it. I don't know. There's always a story arc in these. I like it.
So back to the plot, character, and setting.
Mhm.
I think one way that you can help develop your missing piece is doing these things called magic questions, as defined by Rachel Stevens, who was the first author tuber I ever came across. But you ask a question, but it needs to be like, instead of what kind of character would be in the story, is like, what kind of character would have the hardest time in this story? What kind of character would thrive the most in this story? How can I get my character from A to B by breaking them? So asking more specific questions that delve deeper, and then you can list out your answers and think like, okay, what hero character would have the hardest time? What kind of villain would thrive here? And what kind of side character? I don't know. I don't normally have many side characters. My teeny little stories. But like,
who can you kill? Who can you kill?
Yeah.
The guy in the red shirt.
That would make an impact. So kill off Spock, but then bring him back. But like,
there are some tags, like character tags, that AuthorTube had bouncing around a while, and I did one for the characters of my sci-fi comic, and it was just fun to put the characters, ask these questions: which character would do this, or which character would you hang out with, or what would these two characters do if they had dinner together? Just questions like that to let me actually think about each character and how they would react in a particular situation. It's little details that I could jot down and say, this adds to their personality or reminds me of how they might be in a certain situation when the certain situation comes up in the story. So just asking random questions. If someone's got a list of character questions that aren't your basic generic question, but just those out of the box questions that makes you actually think about your character a little bit more. And that was a lot of fun to do. Those types of things can help you actually think about and develop your character a little bit more in a fun way that doesn't feel so laborious.
Yeah, I find sometimes the question on the page though of like, what if this, or what, it's like, but if I can talk it out with someone else, it becomes more dynamic and fun versus just, now, not that everybody necessarily experienced that. I imagine particularly, dare I say, introverts would love the just writing it out on the page. But for me, it's like, you mean?
I talk it out loud to myself because I
was gonna say I talk it out loud to myself.
Some of us don't have the luxury of living with our brother who wants to do the same thing that we do.
Yeah, I will happily meet you on StreamYard backstage, and we don't ever have to go. I'll talk it out with you. I'll talk it out with any of y'all.
But yeah, I just talk it out to myself, and my kids sometimes they'll come in and be like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Don't worry about it. I'm just having a conversation."
Does anyone else sort of like somehow get yourself into the head of your character and just ramble or like do the movements that your characters would be
Welcome
doing
to
for
being
that
a writer.
thing? And you're just like, they just do the stab thing.
I was part of a Twitter group. I know Twitter's toxic, blah blah, but I have a lot of friends on Twitter. There's a thing called the hashtag MC chat or the hashtag SC chat or whip chat, and you role play as your character answering 30 questions a month. And so literally it's your character talking to other writers' characters to answer these questions and have conversations. That actually sounds like a lot of fun. That is a great way to get to know your character, because it's like someone is like, okay, your character, MC tells us what is their favorite food and their most hated food compared to their authors. And it's the fun thing about this is when you're doing this role play question and answer series as your character, you can say, yeah, my writer wants me to do this, but I don't think so.
I am one of those anti-Twitters. I have a Twitter that I do not use. I think you have just convinced me to use Twitter because I would totally use Twitter just for that.
I would have so much fun, just trolling the rest of y'all on Twitter as various characters, and you trolling me back of just like weird, just like some very weird role playing going on.
All right, so here's the secret.
The vegetarian on the cat world, like, oh god, you don't know how many times I'm just literally walking around this house, just like the side comments that I have, both for the cat folks and the vegetarian.
It's not Annie's fault. She was kidnapped. She was kidnapped. It's not her fault. She's
Okay. But Maggie, my Jewish mother lives in my head, and like all I can hear is her going, "Adapt or die, adapt or die." And so, yeah, like I have so much. I just troll your character all the time in my head as I'm just like housekeeping when I'm sweeping and stuff. It's like the only character I feel comfortable just like being so merciless to.
Annie's got her rules and they don't work anymore.
Right. Adapt or die. It's the Jewish way. Anyway, I'm just saying.
So one of the things that I've been using for this particular one is in The Magic Words by Cheryl B. Klein. And so it has this little chart.
Oh, let's see if we can get...
If my fingers were off of it.
Let's see.
Wrong hand. Oh my gosh, everything's backwards.
Yes.
So the wants, the needs, the fears, the loves, and the hates, and the why.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And that's all you have to do to start your character.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that for my main character in Seeds of Doubt. Turn the page. So I've got my little graph. So he wants to draw comic books. He needs to overcome his fear to protect the family. His fears is the basement. He loves comic books, drawing, writing, art books in the library, the how to draw books, and he hates chores, bedtime, and homework because they take away from comic book time.
I mean, relatable.
He's got his priorities.
Yeah, look, it's very relatable.
I've been listening to a couple stories lately, and I've realized that if you want an engaging story, to a certain degree, you are always inside a character's head. Most of the time the main characters, and so you really do need to know what do they sound like, what is their perceptions of the event.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's why you really need to role play it, because it means just generally what kind of person are they.
Yeah, and like often I don't realize how they are till like I guess because I'm an extrovert at heart. Until I'm talking to somebody else. Like you ask me, well, what is your character's favorite? I'm like, It hasn't come up, so I have no idea. And it's like, well, the only way it comes up is if there's conversation.
Yeah.
But like role playing it with anyone of like, what is Sadie's favorite food? If I am playing Sadie and I'm having a conversation with any other human being, or even imaginary person, then it's like Sadie's like, well, I have opinions, but like until like when it just lays on the page, it doesn't work for me. I need it to be dynamic in some way, like through a conversation, even if it is an imaginary conversation, it still works.
And another way to hit several birds with one stone is have one character tell you about another character, especially ones that they're close with. So like for Glory, no one else will get this reference, but when you were having Pierre the Rat explain how he got Claudette.
Clotilda.
Yes.
Clotilda. Pierre is a rat who lives in the sewers of Paris. And he and his family, enormous family of rats,
I
go
do
to
know this
wormholes
reference.
to collect resources. Yeah, Cat knows this one. And he has a pet human, Clotilda, who's like approximately 10 years old. She's French, but she doesn't speak. And we were like, well, where did pick up this human who keeps making him little ruffly outfits to wear and drive him around in a Barbie dream car and, keeps dressing him as Prince, essentially, in little velvet jackets hand sewn for rats. And it's like, why? Why does he put up with it? Why does he have a human? Why doesn't she talk? These were questions that I'm like, this just seems a little too weird. I have to answer them or else Clotilda's got to go. And we had to it took a while actually for me to figure out where Pierre would have had to have gotten her through one of his wormholes, where he goes and collects resources. He essentially sources all of space and time. And
kind of like all the short guys.
Short guys?
1980s movie, Time Bandits.
Okay. The little people? Okay.
My first thought was
Short guys.
Buzz.
Yeah, okay. That's a new one for me, but all right, go for it. But yeah, where did he get Clotilda? And it was role-playing a bunch till one day, literally driving home, not thinking about them, it came to me of, she's from, the 7th century or 10th century France, and from a monastery. And she doesn't talk because of trauma. So this is why truly he is her pet, or she is his pet, and why he keeps her, because he is the safest she's ever been. I mean, the sewers of Paris are not that clean, y'all, but to Clotilda, this is heaven on earth.
I'm assuming that the rats bring her food and stuff.
Oh, yeah, she's definitely part of the rat family. There are many rats she actually makes outfits for, because why not, right?
Nice.
All right, so I was going to say one of the things I do with the characters, because I do the dialogue, but I do it to myself. I talk out my characters to myself, but I'm going to look into this thing where you can role play your characters. But I keep the character diaries. So every time I have the basics done out, so the character basics, it's going to be hard to see.
But we can kind of see it.
And you see it on the other side. Up and down, I have all of my characters. And even as I'm writing, because everybody's like, well, your things are going to change, or what happens when you add stuff? That's a big issue a lot of people have when they think about plotting and outlining, that something's going to change or something's going to... I'm like, if it's significant to the character, guess what? It goes in this character's little bio or diary, and I add it in. So that way it's not forgotten, and I can re-reference that, and I can see later on how this thing is going to impact the character, going through the story. So you can always add things, or if something's not working, you can take it away. I think I hear a lot where people say, once I write it in the outline, I've got to stick to it. And then if I
No, you
stick
don't.
to it, that's not what
the outline's for.
does. What the outline does, it helps keep you on track. If you have an end goal and you know that certain things have to happen, you can veer, but you want to make sure that you're hitting those key points.
You can go like this. It's fine.
It's fine.
Or like,
and if something, as you're writing, if something significant changes while you're writing, guess what? You can look at this change and say, okay, how does this change affect the rest of the plot that I've already written out? It doesn't mean, oh, I've got to throw the whole outline away. That's not what that means. That is absolutely not what that means. It means that your character is developing more as you write, and that's going to happen no matter how much you outline. As you write, your character is going to be developed more.
Mm-hmm.
The place where they live, it's all going to develop more and more as things happen to it. It's going to change, and you might feel like it's going to happen one way as you're outlining, but then this explosion maybe impacts the community more than you thought it was when you were outlining. That's okay. Go with it. But if you know that you've got to hit these points to make your story make sense, it just keeps your story from going off the rails.
Yeah. Like one case I always remember is a movie Gloria and I really enjoy watching called Beautiful Creatures. And even the author admitted that they actually liked and wished they had made the changes that the screenwriter had put in from their original book, which was they combined these two characters. So suddenly this major side character now has both a reason to be involved with the family of the main character, plus be involved with the research and resources that they then get access to. if once it's combined into a single character, it flows more naturally than it did in the book.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's part of like getting to know them. It's like, well, wait, what if they were also this to this person? Why not combine? You know, that's why it's, you know, truly, never be afraid to make changes as the story asks, because you're trying to make something entertaining that will flow and that people can keep a hold of in their mind.
I would like to point out that we're about to go to break, but Kat has set up a text channel to role play as your character, because why not? And yes, I will set up one soon as well on my channel, and we can have a grand time.
Can we play as more than one character? Because
Yes.
I feel like
say what
Annie's
character
gonna
you're
be
using.
Yeah, that's what I was
talking
gonna
to-
say. Yeah.
Like, they can even be talking to each other if you want. I don't
I
care.
like-
It's just
I
a
might
fun
have
little
been there
place.
as two different
Amy had
characters.
so
I'm just
much
gonna
to
write the name
say
of which
to Amy,
characters.
I'm just saying. But anyhow, yes, during the break, I will also go ahead and try to set that up, even though what I was going to do was add some of y'all who I didn't know were coming, your information to the description. It will be in the show description by the end. But anyhow, let
I'm
us...
sorry I dropped in. I don't
No,
have
you don't need to
today.
apologize for that.
I don't have wind. It's my only chance.
I am so glad you're here.
I know, it's amazing and wonderful.
You don't need to apologize for coming in. It's not what it's about. It's like, hey, let me go quickly grab it and put it in the description. But that's what I'm going to do. Hello, Haley. We are about to go to a 10-minute break. I just want to point out, we've said it before. We're going to say it again. Save your work. Hydrate or dehydrate. Take a walk. Take a snack. Take a rest. Take a stretch. Yes. Do all the things, because you are worth it. You are absolutely worth it. We all believe it here. We believe you are worth it. So on that note, we will see you all back in approximately 10 minutes. Mibbity beep, mibbity beep, mibbity beep, 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 beep. Good. See, Roy agrees. Well, may or may not
Yeah.
be was the focus. But
He just wanted to say hi to everybody.
yeah. That timer was made by Laura.
Lord. It's like you're ignoring me. Yeah.
All right. Well, how do people do or not do?
I did the bio stuff.
Woohoo! I only got 6.5 hours of sleep. So as I told when I think it was Megan and Kat asked me how I was doing earlier before the show, I said I am mother of 4 enough face today. Just so y'all know, I guess I should warn the rest of you, and that is why I also put Charlie's stuff in the description. It's already now done, huh? Go refresh. It's there. So if you don't show up, there's guilt. Oh gosh, we're all stuck in a loop.
It was on mute. That means Charlie should just show up.
I'll tell you how that works.
Charlie.
Peer pressure.
Charlie. Yes, I will peer pressure you.
And I did also set up a Discord category. It's called the Playground. So there will be more text channels. And the guilt. Oh, like y'all, like you just don't know the Jewish mother I can be when I have not had adequate sleep, but I'm in a mood. Some of you may know. And then the actual text channel is Characters Talk. Tom. So, and yes.
I dug something up to show.
Ooh.
If anyone has any...
when you say that, Laura, I kind of wonder if you went to the backyard.
I know. I love the way she said dug something up. I'm all like,
out of the bookcase. There's
Sure.
things called plot embryos. So, show.
There we go.
Okay, so you have your character, and you basically do the hero's journey. So all the steps of the hero's journey. You have their misconception of the world, what they need to change it to in order to have character growth. You have the world that they're familiar with, and then the world that they're unfamiliar with.
Nice.
So you basically come up with their misconception, the hero's journey, so they find out what they really need to do. You figure out your setting of where are they comfy, where are they uncomfy. And yeah, it's really helpful.
Nice. I like it. Good stuff. Look who we caught.
Hallelujah!
Hi.
It's so surprising that I'm here.
I mean, look, don't tempt me. I'll put you in every show description this month. I told y'all I am mother of 4, enough face disappointed. Today I'm in a mood.
If I sound weird, let me know. I'm playing with my mic settings still.
Do you want to just make it sound like robotic or something? I'm sure we'd all have a good time. Hello. This is fantastic chat. I don't know.
I'm just trying to have cleaner audio for both the streams and the videos, and I'm playing around with things. I may got some software running in the background that's supposed to be cleaning stuff up, but sometimes it works and sometimes it's just terrible. So,
and sometimes it thinks you and Amber are the same person.
And sometimes it thinks Amber and I are the exact same person, which is interesting.
We've got opinions today, y'all.
That was Kohaku.
Oh, so sorry. I don't mean
he wants to be friends with Ladybug in the worst way, and she is like, "You are beneath me."
Yes,
peasant.
That's a big right there. Yes, zero coercion involved to snagging a Charlie.
It truly isn't that
we love
difficult
you, Charlie.
To get me to show up at a live stream.
I had no idea. Here I was trying to give you space and respect your boundaries, and it turns out, no, don't do that, Glory.
Yeah.
I can be taught eventually.
I may have already gotten a video recorded today. Like
No,
I'm oddly productive and I don't know what to do with myself.
That's good.
It's called Celebrate.
Is that what it's called?
I need to record a video today. I don't want to.
I remembered during that little break that I have a video to upload. Like I have it recorded. It just needs upload.
Yeah, I thought you were rendering it or something.
Oh no, a different thing.
Oh,
I also have the timer.
So many things.
so many the things.
So many things.
So here we are,
Back again.
back from the break. We've done.
How
the
do we have fun coming up with our stories? That is the great secrets we are revealing today.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps if you can have someone to talk with. Because it's just fun to see someone else's face and go with the, wait, what?
or someone else's reaction. Like, I'm happy to take gifts. Tell us, Roy. Tell us.
Hi, Roy.
I mean, having a dog to tell your stories to doesn't hurt either.
I've done it.
A lot.
I have
I've done
goats for that.
My experience lately has just been trying to recapture that sense of childhood joy that I used to have in writing. And so I've been literally surrounding myself with, I've been watching the really horrible John Ritter version of the movie of Flight of Dragons, which I'm pointing at the book behind me
Oh, God.
on the shelf. And I've been watching like just a lot of the cartoons and stuff that I liked when I was a child, because I had lost connection to that idea of this is supposed to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that, but it's because I've edited so much this year, and I've only, for the whole year, I've written 120 to 150,000 words. That's it. That's it. My 50,000 words a month that I'm normally just bleh, with my drunken hummingbird muse is because I just, when I had COVID, I couldn't creatively write. My brain would not work that way. So I started editing. And then I got on this, oh, yeah, let's self-publish 10 books this year because we don't have anything else better to do.
Sounds like a plan.
So I've
10
been
books,
editing.
10 months. What could be the
What
problem?
could possibly go wrong?
And so now I'm starting to write, and like I said to Tom earlier, I'm trying to, he's waiting on a third book, and I've got this whole subplot that I still have to write, and I'm trying to write it, and I'm just like, And so I confess that I have been like writing like a little bit, and then I go over to my Spartan Chimera Greek history mythology thing, and then I play over there, and then I come back and I edit because I have to edit, and then I go back to, and then I'm like, okay, gotta get this written. Only a few months until I have to publish this book. I gotta write this part. But chimeras and nereids and the Kraken is her friend, and she pets it while it comes up on the shore. And
I just remembered another story I had forgotten.
the distraction
Oh, yeah.
is stealing my childhood joy.
See, I'm just leaning fully into the ADHD. It's the only thing keeping me going right now. It really is the gift that the gods have given me, because as angry and bitter as I want to be, and as much as I want to burn everything down because of the last couple weeks, there's so much shiny things distracting me, like little jingly keys blowing in the wind, that I'm just like, ooh, what about that? And then I remember, oh yeah, I'm angry. Wait, what am I doing? Oh yeah, there's this story over here. And it really is the blessing of my life right now, is that I can't focus on anything for any given period of time. So, yay.
So I'm having a blast writing this middle grade horror, which is a first for middle grade for me. So that's really fun. But I love reading Philip Ardaugh, who writes Kidlit. And so I have this urge to just write something absurdist for kids and just go off and have a blast, just world building in something that is completely insane. Like, oh my gosh. So I have the Eddie Dickens trilogy by him, and the first page is this kid who has to leave his parents because his parents have a disease that turns them yellow and crinkly around the edges, and they have to suck on ice cubes the shape of famous generals and sleep under newspapers on their bed, and they can only leave the bed 3 times, and they have to save the last time for arm wrestling the neighbor. So they just put the bed out the window to wave goodbye to their son as he goes off with his magical Jack and even madder Aunt Maud. And they forgot to hitch the horse. And like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. And the mad uncle has all the family portraits in his trench coat, basically, because he has to take the family portraits whenever he's over a mile outside of where he lives. So like, it's completely absurd, and it is so fun. And the author just injects his voice into everything and narrates it because he wrote it as a letter to his nephew. And so it's just so fun. And he's like, and this is foreshadowing here. Remember this for later. Okay.
Like that, but that was kind of why, like, we loved growing up reading. Was it Stephen Kellogg stories in picture books?
Yes.
Is that it just got more fantastical?
Pinkerton, the Great Dane, or whatever Pinkerton was.
Yeah, Pinkerton.
Mhm.
Yeah, Pinkerton, as well as the other ones. Like, they weren't all Pinkerton stories.
And Paul Bunyan.
Yeah, there was like a lot of absurdist stuff. The pictures were so much sort of find and seek. They were lovely.
Yeah,
But
so
again,
I kind of
just
have an inkling
having
to just
fun.
go and do absurdist and just
Yes.
go insane.
Let me say the. Nah, let me not. Let me not say that line.
Well,
Go on.
see, putting absurdist things into your book is how you end up with tentacles instead of pasta.
True.
Yes,
Come on, Charlie.
Yeah, Tom, just say the words.
Okay, so I was thinking of going back to. I've mentioned this to you a bunch of I can't remember her name offhand. The one that does with the zodiac signs. You know, what's going to happen the next month.
The horoscope?
You know, the astrologer. And she had a note in there about whenever you see in an astrology.
Susan Miller. Susan Miller's the astrologist that I had read many years ago. I was doing so I was hired by a newspaper to write funny astrology stuff.
Nice.
And I'm like, what do I do? And my mother was still alive back then, and she's like, just go find an astrologer you like, and then do a funny version of whatever they're saying. You know, just do your wisecracking self. It's not plagiarism if it's parody. Anyway, so that was how I found Susan Miller, and she would write these long things, and I'm writing 2 to 3 sentences per.
But she had these great explanations of how this stuff could actually play out in life, and so the things to really look towards and how to work with it. But one of the things I always remember was that part about any part of the, what's going to happen in the next month where you see love. If it says, a love interest or that, anything like that shows up, that can just as equally apply to creative output. That literally is the same. It should be, a word that encompasses both love between people and creating anything.
Yeah, she said, astrologers 2,000-3,000 years ago did not differentiate between romance or sexual romance and creativity. That the energy is the same. It's just a choice you make. I guess how you spend it.
And so I was just thinking of, I feel like, the old adage is true about writing and, creativity as it is in the bedroom. If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong.
Yes. I don't know if anybody's actually. I feel like I'm the only person on AuthorTube who's actually read the book Lean Content, but that book, and I actually went to several classes when it first came out, has really affected the way I start a story. And I think for anybody who's struggling right now, one of the core concepts that they bring up in there a lot is your minimum viable content. What is the most pared down, bare bones version of the story or whatever it is that you're working on that you could create that has all of its essential elements in it so that you can test the idea? That you should always start with that and see if you can do it. So this Titanic, horrifically large, continues to grow epic fantasy story that I'm working on right now, it started with a novella that it's extremely pared down. It takes place over a couple weeks rather than decades and centuries and millennia, like the full story idea that I have in my head. But it has all of the elements that are going to go into the entire world. And so in writing that, in taking the time and energy to make that come into being, I was able to not only vet the ideas for myself and see if this is a world that I wanted to spend an inordinate amount of time in, but if it's something that I think other people would like. So I at the end of the day, I ended up having about 19,000 word story that has all of the major elements of the world that I'm going to be writing in. And in fact, the larger story that I'm going to be telling, that I was able to hand around to people. I was able to show it to others, especially those that are in my target market. I was able to see if I wanted to write this world. And I highly recommend people play with that, because we are so prone to coming up with these gigantic ideas that have some fatal flaw in them. And it's traumatic when you figure that out 300,000 words in or 100,000 words in, and your entire world starts crumbling, like, but I put in so much effort. So when you're starting to work out on a story, start asking yourself, what is the minimum viable story here? What are the core elements that have to be here for this to work? And start beta testing it. The Blinded Angels setting, when I first started working on that, I literally wrote a fake magazine article because I had this idea for how the magic would work in the setting and how I wanted to treat the characters. And so I wrote basically like a fake Vanity Fair style interview with a character in the setting that brings all of those elements into it. And because I'm me and I overdo, I did artwork for it and da. But it was just a little bit of effort. It did not take forever to do. I got the main story written in a night. I got the image done the next day. And when I was done, I was like, oh God, yes, I need this world. Right? But I could also see what was wrong with it and what needed to be tweaked very, very quickly. And the sooner you can get to something that lets you judge the whole, the better you're going to be, especially with your world building and with figuring out exactly how the story should feel, its tone, and everything else. So if you've not read the book, it's a really good book. I can't remember who wrote it right now, but it's called Lean Content, and it's helped a lot in my writing over the years.
Nice.
I'm so sorry. I just got a call. I have to go. I wanted to stay for this because I wanted to talk about how I write the end first. That's like
that's actually the next thing
the first 10 scenes when I do my write the tree thing. One of the first things I do is I write the deaths, literally, of every character, even if I'm not going to kill them. And I write the big battle end, whatever it is, the big end game scene. And so that no matter where I end up going off the plot path, I end up, I know that is my end game. That's my mountaintop. That's where I'm climbing up to. And in the Relic of Time and Shadows, the whole series of my big 1,000,000-word sci-fi series, I had the end battle written before the second book was done. I had the deaths of like every character written. I write everybody's deaths, even if I'm not going to kill them. For two reasons. One is so that I can sob and cry about that I've killed them. And so when I actually get to their death, it's not so traumatic. And it also helps me know how much I can invest my readers into these characters so they can send me their tears for my roses.
Do any of the death scenes like an old person lying in a bed? And then you know that the person has to survive anyway.
Yes.
So you can't just like, maybe I should just kill them. Well, I already wrote their death and they die at 83 years old in a bed.
But they
at
can
home,
be tormented.
surrounded by family.
Oh no, some of Maggie's characters
Tormented,
die
though,
multiple
throughout the story.
times.
Oh,
Yeah.
even
Yes,
better.
no, she's that kind of writer. It's like a Marvel universe story. Just because they died once doesn't mean they can't die again tragically.
Gotta get a Lazarus pit going.
Oh, God help you in my epic fantasy if one of the gods of death thinks you're cute or useful.
Oh no.
Because there's 3 of them. They're petty.
Come
and every now and then they're just like, not yet. Wait, what? Not done with
Maggie,
you yet.
would you like to do an outro, or are you good?
I can do an outro. I'm Mama Maggie. I write multiple fiction genres. I have books on Amazon. My rough drafts are free on Inkit because I know not everyone can afford a Kindle. So I try to leave my rough drafts out for free access. If you like my writing, you can always find me on my Ko-fi page. Throw me a few dollars. I will always buy more notebooks. And thank you. Be blessed. If you're in the United States or Canada, happy Labor Day. Enjoy the day off. And everybody working, I hope you have an easy shift. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.
So that also kind of brings you to the next thought I was having, which we'll get into as much more later when we're talking about editing. But one of the uses for role playing and really kind of working out your story is figuring out where will your story eventually start, because you need to start your story at somewhere interesting that your reader can get invested in, and is an insert point. Always the easy example is Star Wars. Of the, what became known as the prequel part was partly, understood in Lucas's mind, but that would not have been a good place to bring people in the middle of a war with a lot of characters. Versus, the one he went with for Star Wars is, one main character we're going to follow through, who's just a moron, but that somehow survives, but he brings the watcher with him. And we also get to understand the world through him. And so that's the other good point, is sometimes you have a great world, you have a good premise, you have your characters, but it's like, but where does it begin? Well, if you role play it, you can play, what happened before, what's happening here, what happens later, till you find the part that's like, this actually seems like a good, because like the story I'm writing right now, that I'm sort of cribbing from a movie I watched that's like, that gave me good inspiration. And I realized after a while I can't start where the movie starts. That is not a place for a reader to jump into the story. Let me start them where things get interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Let me start with some high emotions.
If you are into tabletop role-playing games and you really need some help with this, I highly recommend checking out the Cypher system for this. It is a roll-your-own role-playing game. So while there are settings that you can buy for it, it basically has generic Western, generic sci-fi, generic fantasy, generic horror, most of which is in the core book, but they have some expansions off of it. And the space opera that I'm working on, I had some generalized ideas for it, but it just wasn't gelling. So I basically ran a tabletop game for about 4 months with some friends of mine in the setting, where they played through the plot line I had in my head. And it was so much fun because, one, they're just fun to play. I like doing role-playing games. But I got to see exactly what resonated with people, what elements of the world people really got into, and they just dove into. Because like the Run-a-High were like this little side idea that I had for the story, and everybody got obsessed with them. Like every player became obsessed with them. And I'm just like, okay, so I need to completely revise my ideas there and make them a bigger part of the setting and ... And it was a really refreshing way to play around with a lot of the ideas. And there are quite a few generic role play systems out there, but that one's really simple to learn.
Yeah, I'm more familiar with GURPS a little bit. But yeah, any basic concept of tabletop role playing works for, toe dipping into role playing to figure out what you're doing. As well as a lot of them are helpful for actually mapping out or physically seeing where they're all going. Does this even make sense?
And I
probably not, but it doesn't matter.
I really highly recommend doing stuff like that because, like I said, it showed me what elements of the world people really became obsessed with.
Mm-hmm.
And they were not necessarily, some of them were the things that I was interested in, but it was some of the like little goofy things that probably would have been a one-off mention. But, they had finished a storyline and they didn't want to stop playing for the night. And like the Run-a-High are these little living pet rocks, for lack of better terms, that they can purify any liquid that they're put in. So ships basically get a bunch of them and use them to keep their water systems and air purified. And so they're and I was like, I don't know what else to do. Well, your ship got really badly damaged. You need to go and go on a Run-a-High hunt and try to find some to rebuild replenish your stock. And then for the next 3 weeks, they were like, can we go find some more Run-a-High? Like, is there a way that we could maybe find, do they come in this style? Like, can we find them like this? Are they like that? Like, they were the topic of discussion for weeks afterwards. And they were just this little throwaway idea that was not, I didn't think people would get obsessed with, but all 5 of my players were just obsessing over them. Like they were bringing in artwork. Like, is this what the one we got looked like? They were trying pictures and stuff. And I'm just like, I had no idea that this was gonna okay.
And I think that's a really good illustration of why, I'm advocating workshopping your ideas, anybody's ideas, is it's so you can judge other people's reactions as well as taking that zeitgeist, that spirit of the moment, to see what is inspiring, what is taking hold of other people's imagination, what are they responding well to, and what do they not respond well to. Because we don't necessarily know what other people are going to respond to. Or at least I don't. I'm okay about figuring out what groups are in true, but I am terrible at individuals. Individual people are all a mystery to me, every one of y'all. Absolute mystery. I am the world's worst detective, and I'm not giving up yet. I'm not good at unraveling these mysteries, but I'm here for the ride. So the only way for me to know is to get in the field and go, what about this? How about this?
Do you like this?
What do they do? How about if they do this? What do you think? And just trying it out on people.
It's marvelous when you get to have that interaction, because I'm always talking about the important thing is asking you what your goals are. Are they book sales? Are they fans? Are they readers? Are they just somebody to talk to about the story? Is it just getting the story out of your idea? Like, what is your end goal with this? But again, going back to those sessions, like I created a lot of characters that I knew that were name dropped in the story that were just like background characters in the world. And I threw a couple of them in, and it was, again, remarkable to see which characters they resonated with, which ones that they're like, oh man, we're really in trouble. Can we call Thangwin and Swan back? Just like, okay. So the really weird, like, Jay and Silent Bob, Ninja Assassins of Doom. Okay. They were just weird comic relief that were, okay. Yeah, sure. We can call them back. Let's do that. Because I am not a good judge of what other people might like.
What's really fun is when, like, we played a Lord of the Rings D&D-ish game with my family, and my sister was a hobbit, and we were in Hobbiton on a quest to go find troll dung to fertilize the fields of pipeweed for Bilbo's birthday. And so my sister had sticky fingers. And so we're going along, and she pickpockets the Sackville Bagginses, and she pickpockets Bilbo! And we're like, the ring! No! If Bilbo had the one ring in his pocket, our entire quest would have just boosh. So it's a great way to find plot holes and things to make sure not to have happen. So that was really fun.
It's also a really great way to flesh out your magic systems, because players will find every way to exploit it and destroy it and tear it apart.
Yeah.
I'd also like to advocate for, especially if you can get neurodivergent people to play your game, because Tom and I are very good at finding all the flaws in anything, including people's websites, their games, anything. We will find the weakness, and we don't mean to. It just happens.
No, it's 100% real, especially if you're doing sci-fi or fantasy. Because if you've ever watched sci-fi or fantasy and you're watching the show and you think, why didn't they just do X?
Yes.
Can't they just do X? Because whoever was writing at the time didn't think about it. And then your fandom is going to be like, they should have just, I don't understand why. And it's going to become a thing. Why didn't they just do that? So this is a great way to flesh out your technology, your magic, because if you say people can do X, Y, or Z, and then something happens,
and they can
fix it with X, Y, and Z. But you don't want them to be able to fix it that easy. You need to dial back that magic thing.
Let's say, so Gloria and I watched, what was it, Reminiscence?
Yes, we watched it because we've got HBO Max.
And it's Lisa Joy. We really like Westworld.
Yeah.
And we're watching this, and eventually I had
so many notes for the start. I watched the trailer going, I have notes on the trailer.
Yeah. But the actual story, other than the MacGuffin using this future technology, this is a story where all the characters' minds are in the 1920s. This is a 1920s, 1930s hard-boiled detective story and they all act like it's the 1920s. There's no cell phones. There's no internet. There's barely any transportation. And this is supposed to be a slightly post-apocalyptic, the ice has all melted, and New Orleans has, the sea levels have risen.
Miami's half underwater.
Yeah, type deal.
Sure.
But it's like no one goes without their cell phones. The rich are still in the city. They will not go around without their cell phones. Why does no one have a cell phone or any real transportation or anything? This movie would have made more sense if you had just made it steampunk. And we could have had just this one unique technology that lets us see people's memories. Because otherwise, as a detective story, you just have pictures that people look at, and then they tell you the scene, and then we go into that scene. Versus the no, everyone's now seeing the scene, but it ends up, just taking you out of that moment because it's but what about all this other stuff we're supposed to be in the future of our world? Oh, and everyone's using literal hard currency like coins. They're not even using paper money
debit
anymore.
Cards. There's nothing.
There's no debit cards.
They all use currency, and there's no explanation of why they're no longer using cards for any kind of financial transactions. Doesn't make sense.
Even Batman has a credit card.
I mean, come on. Something,
Don't mention that movie. It's one specific movie. Let's just not talk about that tragedy.
I am not good. Oh god, the flame. Okay, anyway.
I've only seen it once.
Also, it'll help you realize what needs to be on the FAQ page of your website and on your World Anvil, because I, as a Lord of the Rings fan, I am tired of rolling my eyes every time people are like, "Why didn't they just take the eagles to the mountain?" I'm just like, "Oh no, that's very thoroughly explained in the books. That is extremely thoroughly explained in the books. It's the same reason Gandalf couldn't carry the ring. No, that would have been bad. Demon eagles destroying the world would have been bad." So you learn that very quickly as well. Like, what is the one thing that just didn't come across in your movie adaptation by a person who proved that maybe he shouldn't have done movie adaptations with The Hobbit? I don't know.
I love the Lord of the Rings movies. I still haven't even finished the Hobbit movies.
I mean, they're fun movies, but as far as getting across some of the story stuff, so it's one or the other.
For anybody who had problems with the Hobbit movies, if you have not seen Lindsay Ellis's wonderful breakdown of how the Hobbit movies came into being, to understand how that hot mess happened, like it is astounding. Where all of us are sitting here going, maybe one day we'll get our break, and then you're just like, he got hundreds of millions of dollars to do what? Like, he's literally on the side of this, sitting on set, handwriting out lines to hand to actors because there's no script. What? He got hundreds of millions of dollars to do what?
One day, may I please have half of the audacity?
I mean,
may I one day have just half? I don't want it all. I just want half of the audacity.
A tenth of the audacity, even?
Anything.
Really? Yeah.
I really see how I have a shortcoming, and that is I do not have enough audacity to demand that kind of money for nothing.
For nothing.
It is astounding. And because the more you're around people that are either in movies or especially television, and you find out how much that happens, and you're like, oh, that's why that season got weird. Oh,
where it's literally the last minute, and they've got the actors on set ready to film, and they're like trying to hurry up and jot something down. Here, we just weren't ready, and we didn't know where we were going with the story. So there you go.
It's like why the best sequence in all of Babylon 5 is the small story arc of the Ace pilot, because the company that was putting the series out sent him a note. It was like, we love the series, but it needs to be a little bit more Top Gun. So could you please give us a Maverick type character for this show? That way we can continue running it. So he did. The character gets all of 3 episodes where he is heroically killed saving the station. And he was like, do you have any more notes now? And I'm like, no, we're fine. We're fine.
Just good stuff. Yeah.
Because sometimes you got to be true to your vision, and sometimes you make people happy, but in your own way.
Circumvent the censors by adding something blatantly not appropriate, so that can get cut, and Star Trek can still come out.
May I one day have the audacity? Anyway, that is my dream, is to grow as a person, to just the cojones.
I was reading Glory
triple D cojones.
A descriptor, or whatever you want to call, the little blurb for early Diane Duane novel.
Yes, that was what we were talking about earlier today before Tom went to meditate. Was Diane Duane's 1979 novel. What is it? The Fire in the Door, or
Into the Fire, yeah. Into the Fire in the Door, yeah.
or Fire, something like that. And she was like, it certainly isn't YA. And I'm like, Tor, one of your publishers says it is. So I sent it to Tom, who like immediately tweeted it to Diane. It's already responded. Apparently, this story is saccharine sweet. Like, not saccharine, no, they didn't use that, but they said insulin shock sweet. But everyone has sex with everyone? This is an interesting. I would highly recommend the Tor review of this novel from 2011, of a 1979 novel. But yes, Tor said, it's a YA novel. That's not a YA novel.
One thing I've heard that also helps coming up with your story is write your query letter synopsis first. And that will help you see what kind of story you're aiming for, what you really want to get out of it, and then extrapolate from there.
Yeah, I've said it 1,000 times. The first thing that I always do, it's one of my main uses of Save the Cat, is I figure out what the story's kind of about and then write a version of it using the genre formula for each possible genre, and then knit those together into the actual story.
If I may, I would like to impart with all of y'all from R.L. Stein's masterclass.
Hey, I'm going to take that.
I highly recommend it.
I'm in the middle of it.
R.L. Stein goes over literally his process. And here it is. I'm going to tell it to y'all. Not that I'm not recommending that you watch his whole masterclass. It is awesome. Sometimes I like to sleep too. But it's first he comes up with a good title. And that is how he calls it, a good title. It's not a great title. It's Goosebumps. A strong what if. Then a strong hero. That's number 3, right? Strong hero. 4 is a compelling villain. Then what's the conflict? Got to have a conflict. This is like, what is it, like a 100-page Goosebumps story? You got to have a conflict. How do I get the character out of the jam? And what is the ending? And then he figures out basic scenes, basic story idea, basic characters. And then from there, it's just 2,000 words a day. That is how the man operates. Look, I am here to be a hack like R.L. Stein, y'all. I am here to make R.L. Stein level pulp.
Over 300 books he's written.
Yes. But, like, just think about, like, what if you could boil down your process to R.L. Stein? You could make it more complicated. You could make it more literary if you wanted. But if you could just do this, I just want to point out, you could probably sell to anyone. You know, if you wanted to be traditionally published, you don't have to traditionally publish. Even if you follow this, you could indie publish it. Or you could just read it to children. I don't know, whatever you want to do. You could read it to adults, let me tell you. But just try that. Start with a good title. Find a strong what if. What if your parrots are plants? Right? And they are half growing. They have like pods in the basement. You got a strong hero. I don't know. Was it Timmy? I don't remember anymore. It's been so long for me. The compelling villain. They want you to be plant. I don't actually remember this story that well. What's the conflict? You don't want to be a plant? I don't know.
I don't remember. I just remember them replacing the parents.
Wasn't it like pod people? Like they turn you into, like you would be like living in a pod in the basement, and then a plant version of you is walking the world. It's sort of like the pod people thing.
Body snatchers.
Body snatcher thing. So
Sounds
that's
right.
that's the conflict. So how do I get the character out of the jam? How do I help this character avoid becoming a person? You know? Yes.
No,
herbicides. Right? So what's the ending? How do I figure out an ending for this? And then, all right, so what are the basic scenes? How do I get the intro to the character, the intro to the conflict, the intro to the villain, whatever, your basic scenes, your basic story idea, basic characters, right? That's the R.L. Stein method, y'all. It has worked. I'm not saying it's the only method. I'm saying it's a method that you can at least home. That's all. There, I'm done. I'm off my soapbox.
May I go off on a side rant?
Absolutely,
Just
go
for a moment. Literary fiction is a joke. The stories that become part of our literary canon do so by accident and because of common consumption, not because they're chosen. If you don't have the ego of an Ernest Hemingway who willed himself into the stature of somebody who is remembered because he wouldn't shut up about himself, so people finally gave in. Read your history. Oh my goodness. Like, he just wouldn't stop talking about himself. And then, wow, you're famous because you say you are.
The audacity again, folks.
He literally got jobs writing stories about his grand adventures that were actually the adventures of other people. Like, he is a character from the Harry Potter series.
A particular character that I think we all probably remember.
Yes, yeah. So, I mean, he willed himself into being. But when you think about your Shakespeare's, To Kill a Mockingbird was a story that a person just had in their head that they wrote 3 versions of that got published and became this American classic, right? What we hold as the canon of American literature, British literature, whatever, it's happenstance. It's literally, those were the ones that people continued reading for long after their shelf date.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's all you have to do is just will yourself into fame, apparently.
Yeah. You just have to bullshit. You know, they talk about if you have a choice between the truth or the legend, print the legend.
Because the same is true of John Steinbeck. He was the first writer for TMZ, though we don't call him that. Like, he started TMZ like back in the 30s before it was cool, and just wrote so much scandalous stuff that people kept suing him and coming after him that his name was always in the paper, and his book sold. And he willed himself into fame.
Yeah, the fake it till you make it.
Yeah,
Ruined
there's some
my-
people that have discovered that concept now, and they use the internet. It doesn't, and basically they say horrible things just to get
They
people
fake
to see
illness. They
All
fake
kinds,
death.
yes.
They pick fights with people.
But if you look in the years since their passing, they've become less and less relevant as time has gone on because
Steinbeck personally ruined my 6th grade year life. We had to read The Pearl and endlessly talk about it for the entire year in my, reach class, in my special ed class. And it just ruined the last what would have otherwise been the last good year, because the next year it was like all sexual harassment for me. So that was never going to be a good year. But Steinbeck personally ruined it. I want to burn every copy of The Pearl I ever see.
So
I want to burn it and dance semi-naked around it. I hate it so much.
The moral of the story is, don't try to write the next great American novel. It is a Sisyphean effort. Write something that is meaningful to you. Sure, make it as meaningful to you and to your readers as you can make it. But because we've started calling a genre of literature literary, instead of calling it what it is, it's contemporary fiction.
Yeah.
It's just contemporary fiction.
There's
There's nothing particularly literary about it, except for the few pretentious people that think that they will be remembered forever.
Oh, the writing of pretentious people.
And we all know their names.
But what about the prose?
Oh, stop. Don't ruin the name of good prose with pretension.
Just write what you want to write. Like, it's why, like, I always joke about being a bad writer, because I don't want to be a great writer. It's too much effort. I don't have the time and energy to go out and insult people and pick fights and hate somebody's spouse enough to be that famous. Like, I just don't have that energy.
No.
I'm just going to write my stuff.
There is one writer who did manage to do it, and he did it well. I still admire him for it.
What you got, Tom?
Harlan Ellison.
Screw that guy. Anyway.
I'm sorry. Every writer.
Sorry, not Harlan. Is it Harlan? Who did
Harlan.
the Star Trek episode?
Harlan.
No,
that's Harlan.
No, wait. Which Star Trek episode? Because are you thinking of Tribbles? Or are you thinking of the ruins of what's it? Something.
Yeah.
That's
the
Harlan
ruins.
Ellison.
City on the Edge of Forever, and that's Harlan Ellison.
He set himself up literally writing a story in the front window of a bookstore for a month as a stunt.
But again,
Like-
I think Harlan Ellison always thought much better of himself than everyone else ever thought of him, and I
Oh yeah.
tend to believe that everyone else was probably more accurate. But anyway, but again, may I one day have the audacity of Harlan Ellison?
Shoot,
Everyone should
Spence.
at least have one thing from Harlan Ellison, and that's realize the worth of what you're doing, and don't give away your rights if you don't have to.
That is what I have learned from Harlan Ellison.
That's the most important lesson to learn from
And
Harlan
Isaac
Ellison.
Asimov has actually written an essay on this. That's where I originally heard about this. Was about managing your rights. But, and we'll go to a break in just a sec. In which case, I recommend everybody put your questions in. If anybody has any remaining questions, we'll wrap them up in the third hour. But here is, I have never once tried to write inspiring purple prose or anything, even though, yeah, I do sometimes write purple prose a little bit. And I like good prose. I have only ever tried to hone the flow of what I write. Because reading should be a joy to everyone, even people who struggle with reading, like I do, because I have dyslexia, as well as other learning disabilities, actually. And I get compliments. I've literally gotten compliments like what now, 30, 35 years. I've been getting compliments on my writing, and people are like, you're so talented. And I'm like, I literally, y'all, this is my secret. If you want good prose, do not try to write good prose. Work on your flow. And the only way I know how to do it, I'm not saying there's not other techniques, but my technique, I'm going to tell it to you now. I'm dropping this pearl here for you. And afterwards, you're going to be like, that's it. Here's my pearl. I read it out loud. And anytime I trip up for myself, again, I'm dyslexic, I circle that little word or two section. And later I'll try to iron out that sentence so it flows. Okay? And that's literally it. So if you do not have dyslexia, may I recommend that you find a dyslexic reader for you and just record them reading it. And then you follow along and you circle any place they trip up. And that is how you make it flow beautifully. And you'll be complimented for the rest of your career and beyond your death. And with that, we're going to take a 10-minute break. And when we come back, we will answer all your questions as to the best of our ability. Then we'll have a good time just being funny. And then we'll wrap up. How about that? Sound good to everybody?
I'm going to have to go take Roy to a dog park.
Okay.
He's...
Laura, would you like to do an outro?
Sure.
All right. Let me put you. There we go.
Hello, my name is Laura Nettles, and I have a channel called Laura Nettles. Imagine that. I am documenting... Roy!
This is my moment, Roy!
I'm documenting my progress of coming up with and writing a middle grade horror, so come follow along. It's going to be awesome, and I love you all. You're all great.
Okay. Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Awesome. Okay. So we'll see y'all back here in approximately 10 minutes. Mibbidi-bip, mibbidi-bip, mibbidi-bip-bip-bip, boo. Hello, hello. How
Okay,
are you?
I'm a terrible person, and it takes me a while to understand some things, but I thought Eva's puppy was in relation to the question in chat, and I got very
Oh, God.
confused for a moment, and then I
That's
looked
totally
over at the
different
other side of the screen and saw there was, in fact.
thing. Yes. Yes. Look at that, sweetie. I know. I was watching like Eva. Nia was just like, hello, hello, hello. He's
He
getting me
just likes
obeyed.
attention.
Yes. So, everyone have a good break?
Yes.
Yes.
I did some editing, and as much as he would let me.
I was about to say, I'm
Uh-huh.
frankly surprised you got any done with him.
I mean, he's like a cuter version of Frank the Pug.
Yeah. He's so cute. I just want to pet him so much.
You ready to get down? You ready to get down now? Did you have your fun?
Had my nap, had my pets, had my cuddles.
Yeah.
Now, where's
Go
the-
It's time for some trouble.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Good boy.
So, Spence asks, in a post-coital glow moment, what could a guy say that would seem like a compliment to most people, but someone with chronic low self-esteem would get upset about?
Yeah, I echo
The
what
vampire romance, and they're really happy right now, but it's also it's about to go to shit for everyone. And this guy is unintentionally ruining the last moment of joy he could possibly ever have, just by being a well-meaning dumbass.
Yeah, I echo what Tom said. Like, it just would annoy me if they complimented the one thing that annoys me the most, especially if they liked that thing. Like, if I've got a big old wart on my cheek and I hate it, and he's like that, oh, I just love your skin, especially that lump you got right there, I would just be like, oh.
It's just so much fun. I love just
Yeah, and
with-
just like just rubbing it and like, oh, it's so. I'm like, okay.
Oh,
we're done.
yeah. Okay, so I have a spare tire, and one of my exes loved my spare tire, like rubbing it anytime they were within arm's distance of me. And I was in my late teens, early 20s, and I was just not for this. They're like, but I love it, and it's so soft. Like, every compliment they ever gave made me feel more insecure about it. And they were not trying to make me feel insecure, even though they definitely had some other personality problems. But like, they were like saying, like, but it's so soft, and it's like auxiliary titties. I love it, And it was like everything they ever said made me feel even more self-conscious.
Eva.
So yeah, like if they have like some sort of insecurity, which apparently I was just reading how no matter how wealthy a person is, money does not help you with your insecurities. So I presume no matter how immortal you may be, that immortality will also not help you resolve your insecurities either.
And never forget the awkwardness and the power of overly sincere, well-intended gratitude. Because I've never felt cheaper in my life.
And when somebody says thank you.
No. It was I didn't know if it was very transactional. It was a kind of thank you that you would give like after a really good dinner at a restaurant. Like, it really had that feel about it. Like when you're like thanking the server and, send my best to the chef kind of a thing. And it just was so, like, I understood that their neurodivergences and the well-intended nature of said statement, but it made the entire experience seem oddly transactional and so cheap. Like, They also sent a thank you card the next day. And that broke me for like a month.
Yeah, like to mama, what they said was, it's like when these get tired, I have another set on you to like rub on. And I've been haunted by this for over 20 years. Like, my mother, when I came back from boarding school with this tire at 13. And because I was so stressed there. And my mother mocked me endlessly about this. Of like, well, you came back, like, it was bad. And I was very insecure a few years later when I had something, a significant other. And they loved it. And I was like, I'd only ever been shamed about it. Nobody had ever spoken loving terms of my tire before. And yeah, it was just like, they're like, but it's so utilitarian. You love utilitarian.
Eva's on a roll because yes, any use of the word nice or fine, just no. This is no matter what a compliment you think that is.
I like that one of anything in the realm of, all right, we finished this. I'm going to go to my next thing.
Right, like I got somewhere to be.
Oh yeah, the to-do list.
Oh, we've been just in time. I still can make dinner.
Oh no, I forgot. Or oh no, I forgot to start the dishwasher.
Yeah. Oh, okay. What I used to call that, I'm trying not to curse. It was an F and go. That's what I used to call it in my late teens, early 20s with my former lovers. What was this? An F and go? Only I didn't say F. Yeah. Because, like, as soon as we're done, like, they're not even waiting 2 minutes, and they're like, well, I've got to go. And, like, they're literally getting up, putting their shoes on. And I'm like,
Worse is asking you to go. Can you hurry up and go now? I got things to do. Can you?
All right, I got to ask real quick. Tamama, was that a typo? Or did you just shorten out, oh my good gosh golly?
Please let it be the latter. Please let it be the latter.
I was just thinking to Tom, because, like, Kat made the lovely timer we used. She just had uploaded, and honestly, y'all, if I know you and you put out a 10-minute timer, I just assume you made that for me. So if you don't, you probably should.
AlterTube doesn't use 10-minute timers.
Right? I'm the only one I know. So if you make a 10-minute timer and you upload it, I'm assuming, oh, they made me a Prezi. So Tom and I were talking during the break, and I was like, it's the most spooky time of the year. And so that's like, Tom's like, oh, good gosh golly. There's another holiday song with oh, good gosh golly. And that's so I was like, we're just in that holiday mood now. It's spooky season, y'all.
Ooh, I'll order the Uber for you. Ow. Yeah.
Eva had another one, and I was like, yeah, for people who don't like the smell of sweat, don't ask them to put on some deodorant, perfume, or go take a shower, please. Do you mind going to go take a shower real quick? Because, yeah, don't do that.
Or anytime somebody's like, oh, I can smell something in the air. Oh, God, the shaming.
Please don't.
Or like I have been in a room, maybe where I was doing something with someone, and someone else walks in, they're like, oh, let's open a window. And I'm like, well, I'm going to go die over here in this closet.
Yeah, I had an ex who liked to use the word musk to talk about the scent of human beings. And I love that musk. Like, no, I'm done. You just ruined it. Bye. Getting dressed. Bye. No, it's mood is so dead. Like, there's not enough pills on the internet to fix this.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, gosh. Yes.
I cannot say it enough that one thing I do like about being from a family of late bloomers is that the brain does keep developing. So over the last decade, I've been able to, control the ADD and the outbursts more. Because in my 20s, I was definitely guilty of several neurodivergent comments like that, that were not meant that way, but just, kill the mood right there.
Yeah, you were really good at saying terrible things to nice people.
Why, Eva? Why must you combine those words together in that order? That is an awful, awful.
I'm not going to put it on the screen. We don't need to immortalize. Nope.
And Spence, I'm
Even
gonna
Megan
have
only
to,
has one word response to that one.
Ew. Okay. Yes. So.
Eva, I'm eating.
Not anymore.
Nope. Maybe give it a break. Let the food cool.
Oh, I know. Mind if I go watch that football game? I think it's still going on.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's a mood right there.
That would cause someone to make soup.
To cry into?
Okay, so in kind of the late 90s, early 2000s, make soup was a euphemism for hit somebody in the head with a hammer.
I missed that.
I can see that still be appropriate for the 50s, too.
It's what you do when you get really, really angry. You go make soup.
Well, so down in the deep south, like South Mississippi, they would say, we're going to go make grits. Because it's an old trick, apparently, of disgruntled wives for spouses that have really gone beyond acceptable behavior. You know, like totally abusive behavior is you make a pot of grits while they're laying in bed, and you come in and they're not dressed, and you pour that hot pot of grits on their middle area, and they're going to be burned for life, because you can't just wash hot grits directly off. It's actually very difficult to get this hot gooey stuff off. So it is a way that apparently for the last 150 years, supposedly, a lot of women have taken domestic violence back.
That saying is here too in the Carolinas.
I'm not advocating it. I find it
I've
horrifying. I find the whole thing horrifying. But having actually now been in a violent domestic situation before, I understand at a certain point it's like you've been pushed too far and you've given up on your life, kind of. But yeah, it's something that we say down here of like, don't make her go make a pot of hot grits. She gonna make that grits for you.
And Spence, I DM'd you on Discord the worst thing somebody ever said to me afterwards that they thought was nice.
So, anywho, on that note, here we are workshopping.
And this is how it works. It's not that like any of us is actually going to come up with the correct phrase or what Spence needs. But it does kind of shake loose ideas as well for Spence to kind of pursue.
As well as the whole, I don't know what it is, but I know that it's not any of these. You know, it can be through a process of elimination.
It's the one thing that we writers don't do enough that musicians do a lot, and that's sitting around and riffing together, just kind of jamming on an idea, and it's the closest thing we have to that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I know, and that's why, like, when I saw, when Gloria and I heard so many people on AuthorTube talking about how they would never, collaborate on a story with someone, our first thought is, obviously, they don't know how to play improv either. Because that's really what a lot of collaborating on a story is you're playing improv. You're doing yes ands.
I mean, it doesn't mean you got to write the whole novel with someone, but even just, riffing, improving with somebody is a form of collaboration. And it's a lot of fun, or it can be anyway.
You can definitely spark a lot of story ideas.
So So we've talked about improving. We've talked about role playing. Hello, Nikki. Have we covered the things that everybody, at least around here, enjoys doing to flesh out stuff, flesh out ideas, flesh out premise, characters, in a general sense?
Yeah, I would say some of the things that if you're improving, you might think would be easy for people are not so much. Like where you're just speaking as your character, that sounds interesting. There's a lot of people like myself who have a hard time actually sharing our work with people who haven't read our work before. And it could be for many different reasons. The fear of not doing something well, or being chastised or criticized, or just that someone's not going to like it, and how are you going to handle it if this person that you are on author with, who you absolutely love and admire, hates your work? Oh my gosh. So there's a lot of that goes into it. So like the people who have read who I have beta reading for me right now have read some of my work before. So they know what to expect from me, and they know where you need to improve here. This isn't working, but I still get very nervous about sharing my work with AuthorTube people because it's different.
It is just like, yes,
it's different.
And it's also, and like everything, it's finding, the safe spaces where it's okay too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, like,
because we've definitely seen there's a lot of places and people don't.
So maybe let's talk about like what are the green flags and red flags for what is somebody that would be good to do this sort of workshopping or collaboration of any kind with. Even like low-key collaboration. I don't mean necessarily like you both put your name on a story, but I mean like even just, what we're talking about, like role playing or playing around with it of some nature. What are green flags and red flags?
And I'm sure I missed somebody mentioning this when I was in my own private editing hell before I joined the stream, but mood playlists for my characters is such an important thing for me. Of like, what would they be using to find catharsis in various moments of anger, sadness, happiness, and putting those together so I can get a good sense of who the character is. Because, somebody who's happy and listens to Cradle of Filth is very different from somebody who gets happy and listens to Britney Spears.
True.
You learn a lot about a character that way.
That's true. Yeah. For me, it's like if I explain the basic premise of improv, that it's a yes and idea. So, like, you lose the game if you say no for any reason. It doesn't matter, even if you think it's valid. Like, you can't say no. You have to find another way to redirect. And I say that, and they give me a quibble. They don't know. Or we play like a basic, just let's play a warm-up game of this. And like the third thing out of their mouth is no. That this is not necessarily someone who is really going to be able to play this game well when I'm deep in my creative energy. Mm-hmm. So to me, that's a flag to maybe this is not necessarily a person that I could like play this game with to workshop ideas. That kind of person, I would instead just honestly make more like a pitch of a character, or even like just a little snapshot of a character or a scene, and see how they respond that way, rather than actually doing more of the role playing or improving stuff. Because if they have a hard time not saying no, and I say that, and I'm talking about my mother, then it's just not worth it. Like, no matter how many times I try to teach her how improv works, she could not keep this idea in her head longer than 30 minutes that you're not allowed to say no. That you have to find a different way to direct. I know she knew.
I have a question though. If someone has triggers or things that they do not want to talk about, how do you work that with them? Are they allowed to say, "I'd love to do this, but I don't want to talk about X, Y, or Z, and we can go from there. And that way they don't.
Yeah,
they
like
don't
there
feel
are-
pushed into a situation where they have to.
Yeah, it's
say
called
no.
appropriate boundaries.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
it's
So
a
boundaries
hard
are-
nose of like, I don't want to talk about cannibalism or scat humor. Or, you know, I'm literally thinking of my mother in this conversation because we literally had this conversation 12 years ago. And I'm like, no problem. We gonna stay away from these things. Or what was it? There was another one that was actually kind of weird. She didn't like the C word. And that's always, she was always like that. That was her. She could handle any kind of cursing, but not the C word.
Mhm.
That's a quote, the C word. Apparently there was only one for her. One C word, whatever.
Yeah,
And
it wasn't Karen.
It was not.
No.
Karen's with a
Was
K.
it- There's a Karen with a C.
Oh,
There
there is
is
Karen on the C.
Some Karens are spelled with a C. So, and I was like, absolutely no problem. And she was like, I'm just not in the mood for the cannibalism jokes, Corey. Which she knew me, and she was absolutely right. Because in our family, there was another rule that, what was it when we started that rule? What is it, when I was 14?
Yep, at the dinner table.
At the dinner table, no cannibalism. No cannibalism stories, no cannibalism jokes, no cannibalism, did you know facts.
Especially when we're having
when we have
Italian.
guests. When we have guests over, no one is allowed to talk about the
What are you
Donner
talking about,
Party.
Glory? It was the guest who kept doing it.
I know! And we had to tell him, no, at our dinner, at our family dinners, discussion of cannibalism is only allowed after dessert has been finished. So, he was the one who had a problem with this boundary. Anyway, so...
Because again, people who want to collaborate understand boundaries, and good boundaries make good friends.
Yes.
So yeah, let them know ahead of time of like, or even if you do encounter it that you didn't think about it while you're playing the improv of like, I'm sorry, that's a trigger. Can you do something else?
Right, like, maybe, well, there's a lot of things that can be a trigger, and it's perfectly acceptable to just state those beforehand. In fact, it's a good idea to say, these are things I find very off-putting, I don't want to talk about these things. No matter what they are, you need the other people or person needs to respect that. Especially when you're playing a game. And I want to point out again, it is a game. It is meant to be fun or at least enjoyable. Even if we are improving a dark scene. Like, it could be, how do you explain to this other person that their family spaceship just exploded? Now let's figure out this like weird conversation. It may be a dark scene, and yet it's supposed to be somehow enjoyable for the people involved playing this game. That is the point of play pretend.
Right.
Is we're having a good time, and if we're not both having a good time, or all of us having a good time, we're not doing it right. So let's figure that out. Where
we're not playing the game of mercy.
Yeah.
Or uncle, or whatever version you want to call it. Right? That's not
murder.
the game we're playing. Yeah.
We're not playing murder today, necessarily. But that it should be fun. And yeah, I think like to have fun, it means to have recognized and respected boundaries. Whatever that may be. Or it may be like the boundary is I can only do this for 45 minutes and then I genuinely have to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what you say, I have to leave and nobody's allowed to pout when I leave. Again, if they're not respecting that boundary when you play the game, then maybe you don't want to play with them anymore because boundaries.
Right.
I think that would be a flag if you play the game with somebody and one of your stated boundaries they didn't respect, no matter how good the reason. Other than, oops, shoot, I'm so sorry, I forgot. Let's back up to the other place. I did not mean to do that. Look, everybody makes mistakes.
And especially if you're older, you've definitely got still some inappropriate old jokes that may come into your head playing improv that you're just like, wait, no, that's not what I meant to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Does anyone else have any other flags, green or red, for people about playing any kind of writing game, I guess? Storytelling game.
There's an interesting idea of one of...
So Eva says, red flag, you feel inferior to them in any way. Time available, writing speed, writing experience, etc.
Yeah, because again, you have to really play a game, you have to feel comfortable and safe.
Yes.
And if there is a, unequal power thing going on, again, you'll be too self-conscious. Or them as well. If they keep wanting to accede to anything you say, again, if they're a bit too, if they're seem like they're being subservient, if they just want to agree with you, again, this is not how you play a game. That's just sucking up. One I have seen occasionally is where they just keep bringing it back to themselves through one character they have created in their head.
Like, what do you mean? Would you go on a little,
I
extrapolate
had a
a
very
little?
Michael Scott moment go through my head when you said that.
Yeah, that's
Not that far off.
yeah. You've moved on, so you're on to a thing, but they somehow keep bringing back and inserting this character that really doesn't fit and has nothing to do with it, but because they just want to talk of that character.
Yeah, you're in a sci-fi or fantasy mood setting in your improv, and they keep wanting to talk about fixing a photocopier. They're not actually playing along with the scene and adding to it. They keep trying to instead take over it to theirs. Again, being competitive with the game instead of collaborative.
And collaboration is a really important thing there to I'm not going to name names, but I may. Sorry, somebody opened a door to very loud music outside, and I don't want you to get DMCA.
Well, I heard something. I thought it was like a phone or something. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
Charlie got a call.
I did not want you to get a DMCA. Sorry, I muted real quick.
Oh, it's okay, hubby.
So I used to call a certain writer a friend who was basically creative mining all of the other writers that they knew because it was easier than coming up with ideas on their own. They were never willing to reciprocate. And you would notice that things that you had talked about showed up virtually verbatim in their work. And especially in work for hire stuff that they were doing. Make sure that there's some reciprocity in here, because that's what collaboration is. It's give and take. And if somebody is just like mining ideas out of you to further their career, that's not a healthy relationship to be in.
Yeah, that's journalism.
Tom.
Again, not a healthy relationship to be in.
So how would you fix that? If you have a group of people, they want to comfortably go into a setting where we're doing a role play, playing off of our characters, because I hear so many different things. Again, I'm probably the newest person to AuthorTube in this group, but I have heard how some people are really afraid to share their work because people in AuthorTube say there's no such thing as stealing. But if you really work to develop something and you just kind of want to share it and play with it, is this real? Newest person here who has not shared a whole lot, wondering where does that go for those of you who have written more stuff and put more stuff out there? What, because I would be like, oh, I don't.
Okay.
Know.
So here's a perspective that I don't hear much on here, and I'm sure a lot of people probably would not be comfortable with. But here is what, from a psychology perspective, Gloria and I have seen the reality of. We need derivative work. Humans hate true originality because there's no schema in their mind to hold on to.
Predict it, so their brain doesn't give them a dopamine payoff for how the story goes. And let's be honest, there's like a dopamine deficit in the 21st century for sure. People, like, I don't know if it's what's blocking it, but people are definitely not getting enough dopamine to function fully. So people are always looking for dopamine. And so they like derivative stories because they can predict the tropes. They love tropes and templates. So truly original work makes them angry because they're not getting that dopamine payoff and they spend all this time into your story.
And no one is really going to be you. So even if they take a scene that you guys talked about, your story still should be very different. Unless like you've just been talking everything out directly with like
your interest, your perspectives, your like flavor of life experience is somehow
your tone of voice.
Your writing voice is baked into your story, and so is your perspectives. You know, all your life experiences are kind of coloring or lensing everything in your whatever you write, and theirs are different experiences. So yours is still going to be unique. Now I say that, and there are a few people I cannot say they are absolute copycats, but they know it real quick. And all you have to do is once you realize, wait, did that bitch copy me? You just try to block the next time and see that they didn't successfully copy you. And then you just know, wait, that person, no. But everyone else, fine. Like, so Tom and I had an assignment in digital photography many years ago. It was, we had to go take pictures of Mardi Gras. That was the assignment. Everybody in the entire class was given this assignment. Everybody in the class had already been forbidden to go together with any other classmate to do their photography. However, Tom and I did not pay attention to that because I am not going to New Orleans alone on Fat Tuesday, on the weekend before Fat Tuesday. I am not that dumb. I may be dumb. I'm not that dumb. So I was like, hey, you want to go to New Orleans with me? And Tom was like, yeah. And we actually loaded up a couple other friends. Because, like, if we're spending the gas to go to New Orleans for a class assignment, who wants to go Saturday night with the rest of, was it Saturday night? Yeah, because they were filming cops.
Yeah, Saturday night.
They were filming cops in the French Quarter. I have pictures. And on Tuesday, was it Tuesday? Whatever the next class was.
Yeah, I think it was Tuesday.
Everybody's showing their dailies of their assignment. And I caught this really cool picture of it was somebody being loaded into an ambulance, and the framing of it was really cool. Like, not that what happened to them was cool. They were fine. I did check, and they were fine. They were released actually later that night. But they were really drunk, and they got their head injured being drunk in a bar. I'm just going to say that. And I caught this picture of them in the ambulance. Tom caught a picture at the same time. Like, what were you, a couple 100 feet away? Not even a couple hundred. It was like maybe
100 feet.
Maybe 50 feet, actually. He was within visual range of me because that's mine and Tom's role when we're in the French Quarter is as long as I can see you, you could do whatever you want. But the moment I can't see you, one of us could disappear, and that's not cool. So I could see him when he took it, and we were like kind of triangulated from each other, and he took a different picture. And that was the picture he also chose for his dailies. And people were like, hold up, were you at the same place taking pictures? And I was like, yeah, I don't go to New Orleans alone, let alone to Mardi Gras alone. Hi, did you not know I'm a woman? And they're like, but nobody's allowed to take pictures together. And our professor was like, yeah, Gloria and Tom, though, don't take the exact identical picture like the rest of y'all have been doing. That's why I made that rule. Like, their pictures, if somebody didn't know, they would think they were actually different pictures, like different ambulance incidences on Bourbon Street. It was actually on Bourbon Street, yeah. But he was like, these are not identical pictures versus y'all are literally standing next to each other taking pictures. You two, how far apart? And I was like, we were at least 50 feet apart. And we totally composed different kind of pictures. And that's what I'm talking about. Our perspectives, literally and figuratively in this story, colored what our pictures look like. And it was a double blink before people realized we had taken it at almost an identical moment. Because we could look at the timestamps on our digital cameras, and we literally took it within 3 seconds of each other.
Also, you have to bear in mind your own comfort level with things. Like, I put my world building up on World Anvil and anybody could do pretty much whatever they wanted to with it outside of my power. You know what I'm saying? Like it's there. My maps are there. My story ideas are there. And, you know, it is what it is because, again, if you've had the same horrendously messed up life that I have and are approaching these things with the same perspective I am, more power to you. I want to read that book because that's why I'm doing this. And I feel like, especially for like the fantasy story I'm doing, it has been the most collaborative project I've ever been in because different people have named different things in the story because I'll be talking and the chat will blow up and the people on screen will start throwing ideas around. And it's been such a wonderfully collaborative experience. And, you know, hopefully I've been able to pay some of that back, but, you know, I don't mind all of that being out there. Like the full history of a lot of different groups are up there. And, you know, I've every now and then get a message from my sister of, have you read this book or have you seen this movie? I think they ripped you off. And, you know, then I read them and I'm just like, oh no, here's where it's very different. Like you don't, like, it's not, no, we're using a similar trope. It's not that the stories are anywhere near each other. And
yeah, that's what I like. Go on, sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh no, I was just saying, you know, that's where you have to start judging your own comfort levels because there is a lot of backbiting in every author community I've ever been in, and I wish I could say that that's not true, but it's like I always say, you know, writing is middle school. If you're going to hang out with a bunch of authors, pick your table wisely. Like it's middle school lunch. Just pick your table wisely. Realize what you're getting into with the table you're sitting at. You know, is it the table that's going to be throwing the pudding at the other kids or getting the pudding thrown on them? You know, like just know where you're sitting at the table and be okay with that because, you know, things get very cliquish and some people feel overly entitled to your time, energy, and effort. They're not. You know what I'm saying?
For me, like, ideas are endless. There's tons, but also, like, Nia, no matter what story you and I would try to write the same prompt, I know it would be so different because our perspectives, while we have a lot, dare I say, spiritually or friendship-wise in common, because I adore you, Nia. I love being around you. And I think part of that is because, you know, it's not just we get along, but also, like, so many times I really understand where you're coming from. But I don't really believe, like, our prompts, our stories would end up being identical or even necessarily even looking related. So, again, I'm not worried about, you know, whatever, you know, I say, any idea that Nia's going to take it and take my idea and that'll be in. Of like, no, even if Nia and I wrote the same prompt, they probably wouldn't even look related. Nobody would ever guess we did it from the same prompt because Nia's perspective is going to color, like, her writing voice and everything. I have absolute faith in this. So I'm in no way concerned that somebody's going to copy me. Also, because I've learned, like, apparently nobody in the world seems to think like me pretty much. So, and, you know, maybe that's just for the best.
But
maybe that's one of the perks of being neurodivergent.
Yeah, it is, like, really.
It really is. You know, I have all 5 books of the series that I'm working on outlined. If I handed out the outlines to everyone on screen and we all wrote those 5 books, they would be very, very different books in the end because, you know, I'm approaching this with a very twisted humor sort of perspective that I don't know. I think some people understand I'm joking. I don't know if other people do or not, but it's fine. You know,
but actually, but having similar stories come out even within a short time frame of a year or two is kind of like the same reason why car dealerships, you know, exist next door literally to each other.
Yeah, like, what is it, like Car Dealership Row?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a reason why they're all together when you think, oh, well, you know, people, they go to buy a car, they'll stop at the first dealership they see. That is not how it works.
Because this is where, like, real author-tube collusion could take over the market. Because when people talk about writing to market, unless you're a really fast writer, don't do that. Because by
Yeah.
the time you get your book finished, the market will have moved on and will not care about your book anymore. Like if you're a really fast drafter, more power to you. I'm not going to stop you, but the market is fickle. But if
if enough people, like if we all wrote in the same market,
Right. If
we
we
could
all like
shift
wrote,
the market.
you
Yeah.
know, like, and
Yeah.
all of us put the same fantasy creature in our story, but we did whatever we wanted with that fantasy creature, and it was an integral part of the story, we would start making a wave for readers to look for more. Because if you found one of us and we're like, hey, I like this, and they knew to search, or, you know, like some creature, they go searching in the search engines for stories, everyone else's stories will pop up.
That's what our collab should be. We should create a creature and then each write that creature in our story.
Oh, I thought we already did.
Really
It's
different
called
stories.
Everyone's Book Has the Coffee Bunny Cafe.
I like that too.
I feel like I'm doing this subconsciously with Kat because my vampiric fiction and Kat's vampiric fiction are coming out at the same time on the same platform.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I have a
That's
vampire
right.
fiction. Should I start?
Ooh.
I have like
You
9
know?
million projects. I could literally just pick any of them up.
I mean, I think maybe that's what, our Algonquin table should probably like
We're
more
bringing
focused on, like,
vampire fiction back, y'all.
Because
right?
my story is much more slow boiled than Kat's is. So if you want more action adventure, read Kat's. Mine's very like slowly setting things up, and by the time the main character realizes, wait, everybody there eats people. Wait, what now? Like you're a little ways into the story because they're just like, oh, it's a magical wonderland where, oh, everything's vampiric. Oh God, what have I done? But by then, it's too late. So
They're already there.
they're
Whereas
already there.
mine, my main character rips somebody's head off at the end of chapter 1 and then murders 67 other vampires at the beginning of chapter 2.
Funny how
So-
that works.
Do you want to get there quickly or slowly? I mean, this is your option. You have your options, but I think the people that are liking my like Blinded Angel stories would really like Kat's story. And so anytime I get a message about mine, I mention hers, because that's how you actually build a market.
Yeah, and like I've got angels, and that there'll definitely be mentions in mine of, if you like this, you should check out my friends. They have stories with angels as well. Of these are other authors, you might like their stuff. Of we can do that, of like referrals essentially to readers.
And that is
And
what
which
works in the
also
romance
looks-
world.
Mm-hmm.
Also, doing referrals looks really good on you.
Does it?
Because if you're willing to refer another person's works and not only your own work, and like you're promoting someone else as well, that makes you look better.
Well, yeah,
a lot
if you're not
better.
worried about your
I'm
own
more
stuff, you're
li-
showing.
Yeah, and it
Is that what
makes,
they mean by big member energy?
because it also kind of makes you show more of like a person, like not just like making a community of not just you and your fans, but being like, hey, have you heard about such and such book?
Mhm.
I thought it was really great, and like you
So
should really check
noble.
out their stuff.
Dear
Noblesse
glory.
oblige.
I rather appreciate the non-binary nature of the statement that you just made.
What?
It's just how I think.
Because it's very up for interpretation. Big member. Yeah.
Could be
yeah.
anything. I'm not here to
Could be
categorize.
It could be a pinky finger for all we know.
I mean, you can do a lot with what you got. I'm just saying. Creativity will take you very far.
Very far.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why it's like most time I don't really worry, except about ones who are like really trying to literally copy what you wrote.
Like
And that like
plagiarism a little
That's
bit.
what I heard that happen on Wattpad, so I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, that happens on Wattpad. But
Yeah.
yeah.
that's a little different.
But you
versus
sniff those people out fairly quickly
Yeah.
because
but versus like us doing role play and talking about our characters and what we want to do with it. What if someone takes the same character and does? I mean, Han Solo really is not a unique character; it's a stereotype.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, like we call it the Millennial Falcon, but he's a rum runner.
Mhm.
He's a smuggler who does fast smuggles rather than other type of smuggling. but he's what we call in like pirates type stories is a rum runner. And he's honestly just a trope. He's a real stereotype, but he's a fun stereotype. Sure. Have a good time.
And all of our characters, for our readers to really enjoy them, to a certain degree, they do need to be a stereotype.
Mhm.
Even
again, predictable, so our readers get their dopamine that we have promised them.
I would say Percy Jackson is a stereotype of a preteen kid.
Yeah, that's true. Even the ones that we complain about when we read them, but we expect them just so we can complain about them.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, because humans love to bitch. But again, I think there is some dopamine kick out of that. I don't know how to find that article. That there's actual research.
Yeah,
about
no, there's a dopamine kick
that
because you're still showing. Yeah, you're still showing that you predicted it,
right?
And so you get the dopamine for it because humans are just prediction machines, and our reward is actually getting predicted the future. Our punishment is something isn't what we predicted. We are now in trouble.
Yeah. I think that's why one of the reasons why I guess it was early on when I was joining AuthorTube, but there was a writer who wrote in romance, and I guess she ruined the ending and tried to school her romance readership that it's still romance without a happily ever after. At least
I remember that.
Now. And the
crime against readers.
The readers were not having it. I do go on Twitter occasionally, guys. I mean, for the good stuff.
Which is why the chain currently has, I think, 2 reviews left on it, because I went in on people because they kept calling it a romance. And sorry to spoil the book, they do not end up happily ever after. This is not I do not need romance readers coming for me.
Like,
don't do this to me.
This is a tragedy. It has romance in it, but please don't come
like
for
you
me
might like the love story, you might ship Nathan with the serial killer, but no. Nathan wants
this is a romance like Titus Andronicus.
Yeah,
it's a romance.
Yeah, Nathan wants to live.
Blood for you, blood for them. Everybody gets blood.
Yeah, especially with romance, you have to be very careful, because if they miscategorize you, and just a little side note, be very careful and check your book often if you publish through KDP. Because I had one book that I pulled down. It's no longer available anywhere because Amazon kept classifying it as young adult. There's nothing in my tags, nothing in the categories I chose, but I kept seeing it in, because when you looked at the bottom with where it's selling, like which categories it's in, it would be in one of the young adult categories. And I'm like, no. I know what happens in book 2 and 3 in that series. Like, no, this is not young adult. Like, yes, they're teenagers, but that's it. Like, in book 1, they're teens.
Well, that was actually the thing today on Twitter about Diane Duane was that it was, the person was like trying to remember, like, was this a young adult book or not? But like there was actually a sex scene in there, and she's like, well, there's this book, I wouldn't really categorize it as YA, but yes, there is this line in here, and that's why Glory found that article where they're saying, YA, and then halfway down the sentence, but it's not really YA. and Diane's responding of, I made sure my publisher put it as adult. I never wanted it marketed as YA. I don't know.
Because the robots will go through your work looking for keywords, and if it hits enough of what it suspects makes you a YA book, it will just automatically categorize you over there. Just be warned, because I've fought over that. Because hell hath no fury like a reader scorned.
Particularly romance readers.
Especially romance readers.
Fantasy readers come in second under militant, but theirs is more like the creatures were promised and you did not deliver. How dare you have some mythical creature on the cover and then I got none? Like, that's fair.
Although that is also how you can prove that Star Wars is fantasy.
Why?
Because their fans definitely act like fantasy fans.
Yeah. Entitled, you mean?
Yeah. Where's my unicorn?
I'm coming for him. I know. I'm so bad.
If you want to understand fantasy fans and go down a very dark path, Just go into your YouTube search box and search hand-drawn maps and put a question mark on it. And it is people losing their mind because they bought a book that somebody typed the names of the cities onto the map, and they're losing their minds because they didn't pay a calligrapher to hand label the map, or even to use a font that varied the characters a little bit each time you typed them so that it looked you could tell that it was not hand done. This is a whole thing in fantasy fiction.
I had no idea.
There's an entire subculture dedicated to just
That is
ripping.
right. That's right up there with the whole yarn stuff, and it doesn't look. It looks too perfect. It doesn't look homemade.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you do realize that calligraphy used to be a profession, and it was supposed to be identical every character, right? It was a script. They all practiced because this is their livelihood, and they could repeat that letter in a row indefinitely.
My complaint with hand-drawn maps or whatever maps in fantasy novels is when the map is not reflected in the story correctly.
Oh,
So
I have this problem.
like they're talking, the characters are walking through a mountain range, but that mountain range between point A and point B does not exist on the map. And I'm like, what is this? What is this BS? How dare you do this to me? I was going to use this map for informational purposes.
Which is technically why it's there.
Yeah.
I thought it was there to help me keep track of where we're going in this story. It wasn't just because it looks pretty and has nothing to do with the actual story. You know, like
one of the reasons why I draw my maps is one of the first things that happens. So as I'm doing my outline, everything makes sense. I even have to figure out how long it's going to take my characters to get from here to there so that I don't sound crazy where it takes them one day, one time, and then a week when it should take a week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everything's got to be right. And yes, my map is hand-drawn for my fantasy novel, even though I did use a font for the writing. The map is hand-drawn. I promise. I promise the map itself is hand-drawn.
Fantasy fans go hardcore, and there's part of me that loves that. But some of the things that, like, when you spend way too much time in this world, that you see people going on, and I mean on and on about, and like there's entire YouTube channels just dedicated to that topic. Like that's all the channel does, and they've got like 50K subs, and like they do like live streams.
Map making itself, people make maps for other people's stories. Yep. Like they don't have a map, guys, but I made a map. Here it is.
Yep. I mean, maybe I'm just not a good enough fantasy reader that I don't care whether it's hand drawn. I just care that it's accurate. Otherwise, that's when I get salty. But otherwise,
that inaccuracy drives me nuts.
It's what I was talking about with Everett when we were talking about music genres the other day. Genres that have been around for a long enough time have such an insular participation base that they start looking for all of the finest nuances that they can as a way to prove that they are the penultimate fan of that thing. And this is what you're seeing, like in fantasy, is just And
when you talk about certain things, if you're a comic fan, Marvel, DC, or just any specific fantasy genre, or just you have to, if you're not really into it and you're talking to someone who really is, you have to caveat, I'm a fan, but I'm not, like, so that they don't start grilling you. I don't know if guys grill guys, but guys do grill girls. As soon as you say you're a fan of something, they said, well, on episode 4, what happened in 5 minutes in? And it's like, what color was that? And it's like, whoa, dude.
Yeah, do you even know, sir?
I'm a fan, but
I just like to. I'm the opposite end of that, especially for fantasy. I like to just upset them to begin with my hot takes. My 2 favorite ones to just like see if they'll walk away from me. Is one, Dune is not a galaxy-wide sci-fi. It's a medieval story that takes place in a duchy. All right, and that's how many characters. That's how big the story is.
I'm gonna do
No,
the
I
face.
agree.
I'm gonna do the face of the person. They look like someone just shot their mama in front of them. Like, no. Okay, what's next one? I've been here for all of these. Go on, Tom.
You know, no one took Tolkien serious, right? He just wanted to show his fantasy languages.
Yep.
It was just a show-off vehicle to show, like, look, I can
Yeah.
make languages.
Yep.
Y'all, he's been going on about this for like what, a solid 28 years or more.
Oh no, I've only done this one for about 15 years.
No,
I
it's
still
not
hold up
longer.
my copy of the Silmarillion and call it the Bible, though. I'll help.
I mean, look,
Avatar.
it's good storytelling. It still, shows you how world building works,
Oh,
but it ain't the end all be all. But yeah, I just like to head them off and just watch their faces, and if they can withstand that, then we can talk about other stuff. Be like, let me see if I can hit their tent poles with a mallet. If they're, if they'll still stay under the tent.
It's like how I really love having conversations with people who are telling me about their brilliantly original space opera, and then sitting back going, "Oh, I love that in the fifth Lensman book that came out in, what was that, 1938?"
Yeah.
Like, stop trying to be original. All ideas have been done.
Right?
If you read widely enough, you'll find your book. A version of it, at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why someone says, "Oh, your space opera is a little bit like Lost in Space." Yep. Oh,
Yep,
it's a
thank you.
little bit
Yep.
like Stargate. Yep. Oh,
You
it's a little
say
bit
yep,
like Star
and
Trek.
thank you.
Probably that too.
Thank you. I
Because
knew
love
the
Star
title.
Trek.
It's great.
So there's no way it's not going to have influenced what I have written. So
Absolutely.
I just nod and say, "Yep."
Or if they can't take the line,
Battlestar Galactica. Yep.
I just figured out what collab I'm going to pitch to Nia.
the line Glory and I enjoy watching people's faces is we enjoy watching Jupiter ascending. It's still a fun story.
Look,
I mean-
Dorothy ends up with Toto, y'all.
But it's the Wizard of Oz.
Like,
It's the Wizard of Oz in space.
Finally, she gets to smooch a consenting Toto. And it's Channing Tatum. I mean, I'm not sad.
I mean, yeah, there's that.
It's like, look, he has a tail. Anyway.
But it's
And Eddie
Wizard of
Redmayne.
Oz, people.
And Eddie Redmayne gets to play a genderqueer character without being extremely offensive about it or taking the role from somebody who probably could have played it better, who actually has those experiences.
What a rare experience.
Rare.
I know, but still, his voice just drives me insane.
Like,
It's hard
Tom
for me to
literally
watch.
walk out of the room every time Redmayne shows up.
Really?
Yes.
Yes.
Which I'm like, go on, be my snake person.
I like the actor. Eddie's good. But there's just something about the way he played that character and that tone of voice that just.
Good day.
Tom will just literally walk out and then he's like, is he done? I'm like, yeah, come back.
I have an actress that's like this. I'm not going to say who it is because it's not that I don't like her. It's just that I watched her in a series, and halfway through the series, her voice changed. And in everything that she's been in since then, her voice is like that. And I don't know why, but I'm just like, it's a little bit of a talk word, but okay.
I know a bunch of people who feel that way about Will Ferrell. Like a bunch of patrons in our library system actively feel aggressive about Ferrell. And like physical. I can see the moment I mention him or show them a picture of him, like, what about this DVD? Have you watched this movie? And they're like, and I'm like, this is fascinating. I'm now going to be conducting human experiments that have not been reviewed by a committee.
A friend of mine who likes to cause problems keeps a picture of Colin Farrell on their phone because something about his face makes me angry. Like, I've always been this person. I don't know what it is. I think it's a genetic memory. Like, our families fought aeons ago back in the mother country, and my blood has not forgotten yet. But, like, yeah, she was just like, you're not worked up enough, and just flash a picture of Here's Colin Farrell right in my face. Just like, there you go. Now you've got the appropriate mood. Now let's talk about this. Or sickle.
There's a couple actors I feel that way about. Tom and I were working on casting for the Angels, and he was like, "What about this?" I'm like, "No, I don't like him." And it's like, let's just move on. I just don't like his face. So give me his face. But it's fine. Everybody's got their thing. It's no big deal. But again, people complain about Jupiter Ascending, and I'm like, I will secretly watch this movie all the time.
I enjoy it a lot. I really
Look,
do.
the bees, everything.
The bureaucracy scene.
Like, that
Getting
you
through the
can never
bureaucracy.
escape bureaucracy. I feel this in my soul. That, like, even
I-
if I could get off this planet, I still can't escape bureaucracy. I feel this, y'all.
I feel like it's a prequel to The Fifth Element, and so
Yes.
far no
Yes.
one has ever been able to prove me wrong about that.
Yes. Love it. Love
Like
it.
those two movies, watch Jupiter Ascending, then watch
Yes,
The Fifth
I've done
Element.
that.
They
It's so
oddly fit together in ways
Mhm.
that, if they're not in a shared universe, I just
I don't want to
know.
be here for it. If they're
Yeah.
not.
I mean, it's the same ship designer for
Yes.
both Lost in Paradise and the main bad guys Cathedral one.
Yeah.
That's the same ship designer. You can't convince me different.
Yep.
Nope.
I love it. Yes.
I'm here for all of it.
So, workshopping. Does anyone have final thoughts as we wrap it up?
Start small. Always start small. We're the most daunting thing about world building, story design, any of it, is it seems like it's huge and impossible to do. Start small. Find that minimum viable content. What is that smallest story that you can tell that has all the elements in it, and build out from there. You'll get there in the end. But don't be cowed by the just giant, massive things that you want to appear in the story. Get what you can in the story now. The rest will get there eventually.
Yeah,
Agreed.
yeah.
Anyone else?
That's the advice. That's the advice I always give to people who say I don't know how or I can't. I just like, do just what you need to get your story going, and so that you can have consistencies, and then you'll get better at it as you go along. And just don't sweat it that much. Have fun with it.
And cheat where you can. Cheating is so underrated as a tool in
Mhm.
writing. If you are really bad at character design, have you seen Art Breeder or This Person Doesn't Exist? Go find your characters, cast them there. Surf around IMDb and just find some actors that you want to base them on. That's fine.
Yeah.
Do you want a conlang, but that just seems impossible? Have you tried Vulgar? It will just generate one for you. You answer a couple questions.
Vulgar is
click a button,
amazing.
click a button, and bam, conlang, done. It's simple, it's clear, it's direct. There are cheats to everything that
Yeah,
you can
like,
use
you're
to
not good
get
at
the thing that you
plotting?
want.
There's Plotter. That looks
Yeah.
really good. I mean, I haven't personally explored it, but what I saw Kat exploring it on Thursday looked really good. That Charlie was showing them around.
And especially the new templates that they've put in there. Just whatever you're doing, there's basically a questionnaire, and you'll have a finished plot.
Mm-hmm.
Like
That's cool. That's
it's
awesome.
really, really helpful. Find cheats. Cheat early, cheat often.
Mhm.
Don't break the law.
That's another one that people wouldn't think about much is, just how much storytelling in any form and format. You're trying to find your characters and understand them. Take tips and tricks from actors, finding their character.
Mhm.
So find props. A lot of actors feel like they don't know their character till they either find their shoes or what goes on their head.
Yep. Or a hat or a hairdo.
There was a series of books that came out a couple years ago, and they were all riffs off of Rilke's Letter to an Artist as a Young Man.
Mm-hmm.
Letters to a Poet, sorry. And so they're letters to a fill in the blank, and they found somebody who does that. And the letters to an actor, to a young actor, are so helpful. When I was learning how to do characterization, because they're all like little tips and tricks that this actor has learned over their entire career to get into another character's head, into another headspace. Yeah, definitely learn from actors. It's very helpful.
Yeah, I mean, like I've watched so much of Inside the Actor Studio. That's actually really interesting for me to. That's helped me a lot in my improv as my characters. I metaphorically put on you put on the imaginary hat or the imaginary hair in my case several times, and then I'm gonna play the character, and following a lot of the things I've learned from watching James Lipton's interviews inside the Actor Studio have been very helpful for me in truly like just becoming any character. Because originally I was practicing by being characters I saw in movie and TV, and then extrapolating out what I learned with my own characters eventually. But like at first, oh no, look, it's all, as I said, ethical cheats. Go be someone else's character. Try that out. Get comfortable being other people's characters. And then be your own characters. But yeah. Find their theme song.
The other thing I wanted to mention was, because it came up earlier about self-inserts, some people worrying about whether their character is too much of a self-insert. To that, I say, especially if you are in a marginalized group of any sort, do not worry about that at first. If the character works, and it's your experiences, that is a lot of what writing is. And then as the story comes along, you'll flesh it out more. As long as the character, it works for the story and fits in the story, and you want to have that character be representative of who you are, go do that. Because, and this is not a negative, but white men have been writing themselves in every story they've written since the beginning of time.
Oh, good Lord.
All of a sudden, when
even when they're writing women
doing it, it's just a self-insert, or you're just, like, no, maybe we want to see characters that look like us or who have the same things that we have portrayed in a story as a lead. So yeah, most of my lead characters are people of color. Not always. I do have other, sometimes they're Asian, sometimes they're, a different European, not just American white, they're different things. But yeah, my characters are diverse, and diverse sexualities, diverse colors, diverse religions. They're fully diverse.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what is wrong with that? It's not a self-insert.
Wrong with the character insert or the self-insert.
It's me putting a character that I want to see out there. If that character has some things that I have, so be it. So what?
Be it.
Make that character
something different. I'm a little fatigued on the straight cishet white male kind of. I'm a little fatigued on it because I have been inundated my entire life. I would very much like to see other self-inserts.
And that was the advice that I gave Haley that she loved so much.
I would like to say
that's I have opinions now
on a self-insert thing. If somebody can make a book as a self-insert, making themselves fall in love with someone and go on basically a date with someone that they idolize as fan fiction and make it a classic work, so can you.
You can do it too.
I think the only time anyone could find a valid, problem with the self-insert is when this character did everything to destroy their life and they kept succeeding. Is it just because it was you? Because this character did not. This should not have worked. This character does not work unless you are God.
And also just remember the ramifications that you will go through psychologically for doing this sometimes. Ellis was born out of an actual trauma from my youth. And there's actually a scene that I think has been published now, or it comes out tomorrow. I can't remember. They were gifted a memory of mine. That was literally the first thing I ever wrote about them, was them living that experience. And then it going off into a magical, wonderful land where everything's a vampire, but oddly still the same. But yeah, be mindful of what memories you are willing to share. I think's the
Yeah.
moral of the story there. Because
But yeah, don't worry about self-insert.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't.
Because the first rule of writing, write what you know.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
You
And
know
the one
yourself.
thing you know is your own life.
Yep.
Presumably.
You know this is how actual people have interacted with you.
Yeah. Yeah, like I do what Walter Mosley's writing teacher said is there's treasures to be mined there. You have such a unique, background, life experiences and family history. There's treasures to be mined there, mine them. And that's what the approach I take is so there's so much of my life in what I write, and I'm not going to apologize for any of it ever. I'm like, y'all just need to be grateful that I'm giving you these lovely nuggets that are edited.
Exactly what.
Unedited.
Exactly.
Be glad there's punctuation.
Oh,
And scene breaks. Never have I been happier in my life for a scene break than when I wrote that into the story and realized I can go off somewhere else now and not have to think about that for a while. Like, look, what's going on for them? Let's
right? Yeah. But like, y'all, there are so many stories. Like, I'm in everything I've ever written and I'm ever going to read. And it never occurred to me to ever apologize for that. I'm like, what's wrong with self-insert? Like, that's all that, the standard cishet white males have ever done in every story I've ever read. And I thought it was perfectly acceptable. That was what I was doing. What, you got a problem with that?
And remember, the term Mary Sue is most often used by insecure males who don't realize that when characters are written the same way that cis white heterosexual males have been written the whole time, when they're not cis white heterosexual males, they feel very insecure because no, we're the ones with the privilege. So don't be afraid of that term being applied to you, because
yeah, if you're willing to, we absolutely would love to read your self-inserts, everybody. Because
Lady Luke Skywalker, anyone?
Yeah, because it's been scientifically proven when a reader reads a story, their brain can't tell the difference between reading a story and experiencing that life moment. I would like to go experience other people's lives, especially if they were lived. I feel like that's like authentic life experiences that there's no other way I could necessarily get it. And I love that I can like put on other people's lives for a little bit and then I close the story and I go live the rest of my life and then maybe I open it up again and revisit it. I love that I can do that. I want to go do that. Let me go self-insert your life into my brain. That's what I want. I thought this was the point.
Yeah, just don't let anybody gatekeep your stories. I mean, they don't, you can't say, I don't like it when they want to tell their story and they can unapologetically tell their story, but then they want to tell everybody else's story. But then when you want to tell your story, oh, you're just doing that for blah, blah, blah reason. You're just trying to be woke or trying to diversity for no reason. You just cram that diversity in and it's like, stop. Just stop.
How are you being woke when it's your life?
Stop.
It's not woke. That's like, it's called, this was my life.
Yeah,
I have to live it. I didn't get a choice.
This is just how it is. I'm a black woman with biracial kids.
This is
normal,
right?
For me. I'm not just mushing it in out of the blue. This is normal.
This is
exactly. Sorry, it's not normal for you. When you write it, you feel like you're cramming it in. But when I write it, this is just life.
I will never get to live life as a black woman with biracial kids, but I can read Nia's stories and like get a little soupçon, a little taste of her perspective and her life experiences, and that is wonderful. That's what I want. I want to get that about everybody. That's why, we're out here in the streets, so to speak, on the internet, going, let's get more writers. Yeah. Everybody welcome. How dare you act with equity?
Right? My favorite email that I get at least once, if not multiple times a year, is, why are they all gay though?
Because I'm all gay.
Have you met me?
I'm all the queer.
But I feel
Any of my posts ever.
I feel oddly validated by it though. Like it's one of those that I get very proud of. Like every time I get it, because somebody got worked up enough. Like they not only interacted with my content enough, but they got worked up about it enough to reach out to me. And that's why I specifically call out the email, because my email is on the internet. It's just not readily accessible to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
They found it just to be
it.
like, but one question, but why are they all gay?
But why? Because they are. Because welcome to Gayville. I don't know.
Like I can show you all the straight fiction. It's fine. Like it's over there. It's not being taken away from you.
Oh, good Lord!
Like it's all over there. Just
everything.
It's called my entire life. Just it's over there. Like, yeah. Please insert yourselves. We need all the weird fiction that we can get.
Yeah. Yeah, whatever you got. Trust me, it's not my experience because I have a very unique experience of life. And so I would very much like your unique experience of life. You're the only one who's gotten to live your life. Let me now get a taste. That's what I want. I know. Have you ever seen a lone gay? I've never. There's always one nearby. They might be in another aisle, but they're there.
And we always know where the other ones are.
Voices of each other. Marco, Polo,
Like it's because this is the trope that bothers me the most is the lone gay, because like I live in a very small town. And we don't even have a gay bar anymore because they were dumb. Long story, another time. But like we all know each other. Like you find out who you just know, and in times of crisis, we just know where to go. Like I've never been in a place in my life since I came out of the closet where it was like, I wish there were other gay people here. No, I know where all the queer people are. I know what they're doing. We somehow subtly keep up with each other. You walk into a room, you may not talk to them, you may not be friends, but you always have that look.
Anywhere that doesn't have a queer person in the back somewhere, like I don't know. Is that possible? Could you wash dishes without being queer?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Not in my experience.
If instructions need to be followed to the T, there's a lesbian in there somewhere. I'm just letting you know.
Thank you. I feel so validated right now.
It might just be a bi or a straight woman, but it's probably a lesbian.
But like, she's got a Caribbean and maybe a Subaru. She may have a husband, but she's got a Carabiner and a Subaru, and I'm just gonna leave it there. Just leave it there. We don't have to say anything more about it.
Yay, Laura!
Yay! So close. 11 more. We're gonna get you there, baby.
Get you there.
So, did anyone else have any final thoughts for wrap up?
No, my rant. I'm done ranting.
Everything Nia said.
Yes.
I
came for the sermon and I came equipped. I'm just saying.
You did. You had
Amen.
the amen.
Amen. I'm the amen choir. I'm going to get my hat one day. Tom, you good?
Yeah, I think so.
Have you gotten it off your chest for a week? Because we will be back next week. On Monday the 13th. We're going to be here talking about developing memorable hooks and zingers. I cannot stress this enough. This is so important. Hooks are how you get them to turn the page, figuratively or metaphorically.
It's not just how you get them to pick up this book.
You have to keep hooking. I'm just saying. And zingers are
You sound like my house mama.
I'm just saying.
You have to keep hooking. It's not just one step down the street. It's every step down the street.
Every step down the street till
they have to know you're hooking.
The money. Anyway, so
This is really making me think of my early days in drag.
I'm just saying. And zingers
Not surprised.
are how you make them feel like they got their money's worth. So you also have to keep zinging them to get them to keep turning the page despite all the hooks and very few payoffs. Zingers essentially are the payoffs that you give without actually giving your story away. And I don't mean financially. I mean like you don't want to tell them the end till the end, right? How do you get them to feel like it's worth it to keep giving you the last hour before they fall asleep every night or their commute time or whatever it is? How do you get them to feel this way? But this is worth it, and they're going to keep giving you their time because time is precious. The zingers. Zingers are the payoffs, and hooks are the, but I've got to go pick this story up and know what happens next. Okay? And so we're going to talk about developing memorable zingers and hooks. It's so important. I'm so excited about it. It's going to be fantastic. It's a subject near and dear to my heart.
Yes, Laura, I like that.
Between Laura and Tamama, I don't think there's anything left to be said. I mean,
There's not.
Actually, I would just say at Tamama.
As an
Is
ace,
that
I'm
Tamama?
naturally bad
It's
at
like-
hooking.
That's what garlic bread's for. It's still a hook.
It is
It's
still a
still a
hook.
Garlic.
Better cheesy garlic bread.
all
Yes.
hail Hollywood Montrose. All hail my
Hollywood!
glorious queen.
Yes, honey. Oh, that's a gospel right there. I'm just saying.
And for anybody who doesn't know the Gospel of Hollywood Montrose, Matt Baum just made a video.
So good.
Yeah.
So
So
good.
good.
I felt like my childhood was validated. Because like,
Yes.
how many times did we watch Mannequin? Emmy, these are the times we live in. I want to smoke and tell your father to go to hell, but
If
This
I had
is-
if I had a penny for every time I dressed up as Hollywood for a fancy dress and or costume and or Halloween party as a child because I could get away with it because it was in a movie that my parents let me see.
And those outfits are still good.
they're still
Oh,
fire.
Like whoever that fashion designer is that
whoever
dressed
dressed
up, like
Meshack, I don't know, but they frankly deserved many trophies, and I can only assume got none because the world is not fair. But maybe posthumously we can. But
The-
yeah, Hollywood Montrose gives you both the hooks and the zingers.
Mhm.
I honestly like it's a study in setting it up and paying it off because that's what hooks set it up and zingers pay it off.
How to make an unwatchable story classic. Hollywood Montrose. Just watch the
And I mean,
yes.
I agree with Matt Baum. Hollywood is the one the story is really about because Hollywood's the hero.
I don't care about any of the other characters, honestly.
Right?
Like,
yeah.
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 So, and in both of the cinematic universe of Mannequin. Oh, it hurts almost to say it, but Hollywood is the hero of both. So again, we're going to talk about memorable hooks and zingers and how you can incorporate it into your own storytelling in a way that I promise you is pain-free and is satisfying and enjoyable. Something you can cultivate for the rest of your life. Also, I just want to also point out, this is a great skill to develop in case we ever go back to parties. Just in case, like people will invite you to parties that they would never normally think of that you would be interested in the hopes of you will come once you get good at hooks and zingers. Okay, and I'm not talking about putting people down or anything. That's bullshit. I am talking about just being a fantastic person to have at parties. Again, like Hollywood. They're just the kind of person you'd invite to every party you're ever going to host because Hollywood is the life of the party. Hooks and zingers. Once you're good at this, you will be invited.
Why were you in the Marines? They were looking for a few good men, and so was I.
So that's what we're going to talk about next week. I know Carrie and Amy are going to join us. Who knows who else? It's going to be fantastic.
I have work.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
Would anyone like to do an outro before we go? Silence. All right, my darlings. Everybody's information is down below in the doobity-doo. Please do check them out. They are all amazing. I adore every one of you. Thank you so much for coming. And we are all going to say goodbye as we go off into the sunset. Good night.
Good night.